Hello. Um,
Cold at the touch, dead in the eyes, no signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife. Leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly.
hey Jack, are you still there?
It's black and white, no more, baby. Love, no more, baby. Black and white, no more, baby. Love, no more, baby. It's black and white. Just let me go, it's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. Just let me go, it's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. It's black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh. 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 It's black and white. It's black and white.
Hello everybody and welcome to the SRW European Porsche Cup Series round 5 and 6. We are at the Autodrome Jose Carlos Pace, or better known as Interlagos. A fantastic circuit. It was spanning the, well, length of about 4.2 kilometers. And you may well notice that my voice is not Pete MacKay's voice. It's actually me alongside Cameron for tonight as well. And, well, Cameron, you're new to the SRW European Porsche Cup series, but I have to tell you, you may not have watched it much before, but it is a hell of a series, and you're in for an absolute cracking night of racing.
Yeah, I have seen a couple of races. They have been very good, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what tonight can bring.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a championship to be catching up with as well, and obviously this is the third evening's event, shall we say. Obviously it's rounds 5 and 6. There are 2 races per evening, so there is the championship to catch up on in a couple of minutes' time as well. They are about 5 minutes into qualifying, so why don't we have a very quick look at some of the protagonists that we'll be keeping an eye on this evening for sure, who's already proved themselves to be really rather dapper at the old Porsche 911 Cup. Well, Gavin Halls in the Porsche Sport 911 car is a very fast driver to be keeping an eye out on, as is current pole sitter Lewis Ward, who's just coming out to, well, he's just a purple lap time. He then came in to change the tyres and using the free tow that iRacing likes to give you in qualifying to get in, strap some new boots on the car and get back out there. 20-minute qualifying means there's plenty of action to be had and plenty of tyres that can be changed over as well. Matthew Crisp currently in 3rd place as well in qualifying, another driver to be keeping an eye out on. And the reason why I'm highlighting these 3 drivers in particular is because, Cameron, they are in the championship standings. Now, you won't be able to see the championship standings, so I'll go through it. And I know it's a little bit poor quality. Apologies about that, but we will keep you updated throughout the evening with the championship if you can't quite see it on your screens right now. But essentially, Matthew Crisp, currently in 3rd place on track. He's in the lead of the championship with a total of 76 points. 3 points ahead of Lewis Ward, currently on pole position in the open qualifying we've got currently. Gavin Halls, currently 2nd place in qualifying, 3rd in the championship. So you can see how those 3 drivers are certainly the protagonists of this series so far. Only separated by 3 points. In fact, Lewis Ward and Gavin Halls are actually pretty much tied on points with 73 points between them. I'm not entirely sure how they sorted out who's 2nd and who's 3rd, but let's just say they're tied for 2nd. Ryan Parkins and Sam Bentham are no stranger to getting good results, so Ryan Parkins especially will be hoping for a better evening's racing. Maybe have to turn up the wick a little bit and get a little bit more aggressive and take away some of his slightly less aggressive manoeuvres in sort of the fact that he needs to catch up a little bit in the championship. You can see the rest of the drivers there down to 15th place at the moment, and we'll give you running updates on some of the other drivers. We do have over 20 here tonight, which is going to be absolutely sensational. So, Cameron, Lewis Ward, Gavin Halls and Matthew Crisp at the moment separated by just 3 tenths or 4 tenths of a second. It's psyching up to be some exciting racing.
Yeah, definitely. Porsche Cup races are always so close. For people who don't know what these cars are like, you have no ABS, you have no traction control, and you really do have to be on the limit and know the limits of the car. Here we're watching Lewis Ward in that beautiful, beautiful livery, mate, I must say. And I reckon Lewis Ward knows the limits of his car. He knows when you hit the brakes in these cars, you need to make sure the weight transfers to the front before you hit the brakes. And that transfers over into real cars. The Porsche Cup first series and the second series of the cars both have that characteristic. The weight needs to be transferred before you hit the brakes. Otherwise, you will lock up and you will go straight on.
Yeah, and it's something that we do see not very often in this series, as we said, because these drivers are very high-level sim racers, especially in the Porsches, but it is something that you do see fairly consistently in the iRacing sort of universe, shall we say, with slightly maybe lower standard of driving around, plenty of lockups, and a rotation of the rear end as well, because obviously these cars are famously rear end heavy. There we go. Sam Bentham has slotted himself into 3rd place, only a couple of hundredths ahead of Matthew Crisp. And if we're talking about hundredths, well, that's still too big a margin to separate Ryan Parkins and Lee Deemer. We're talking thousandths of a second for Shark e-bikes. And another reason why we bring in Ryan Parkins actually for the Porsche Sport 912 car is to have a look at that sensational logo on the side of his car. You may well see it for the majority of the stream. At the bottom right hand side, it's just ticked over to Simmortal Models, which are another partner here for the Simracersworld European Porsche Cup. Simmortal Racing Models and Shark e-bikes are the proud sponsor of this series, and we'd like to send a big thank you to everything that they do for us. And if you want to go and have a look at exactly what they do, Shark e-bikes and Simmortal Sim Racing Models, it's not exactly hard to guess what they do, but you can check out the links in the description down below. Basically, wherever you're watching this, they will be in the description. So yeah, me and Pete actually last week sort of reminisced about how an e-bike would be very useful in the hills of Yorkshire, and by the looks of Interlagos as well, that steep hill going up towards the last corner, Cameron, having an e-bike over a normal push bike would be very helpful.
Yeah, definitely. I've ridden bikes for a couple of years, and I got an e-bike about 3-4 months ago, and the difference, it's not cheating, it's just a little bit of help. I don't particularly like it. I prefer my road bikes, but yeah, definitely up the hills through Interlagos, there's so many elevation changes around here. The Porsche Cup is extremely unsettled over elevation change. That's its characteristic. So that's one of its characteristics, of many, may I add. So going over elevation changes, it can definitely chuck you out of line, and it'll definitely put you back in line when you try and correct it.
Absolutely. Have you done much of the driving in the sim world in these Porsche Cup cars, Cameron? I know you do quite a bit of racing in various amount of cars out of the sim and also in the sim. With the Porsche, that's something you spent time in?
In both. In iRacing, yes, I have done done a little bit. I did a full season, sorry, in the Porsche Cup, and I do VLN in the Porsche Cup when I bring VLN. And in real life, I drove the brand new version of the Porsche Cup around Spa with Team Parker Racing. So yeah, fantastic. It was they are incredibly quick. They're quicker than GT3 cars now. The Porsche Cup cars are just incredible.
Well, we were speaking actually, me and Pete, a couple of weeks ago, actually, the opening round for this, because obviously we're running the previous gen model here, the next sort of gen of Porsche's Cup car basically haven't been put into the iRacing, much like it hasn't been put into the English Carrera Cup GB scene. Can you tell us a little bit of the difference if you've driven a bit of both, or can you sort of tell the difference between sort of the next gen and the previous gen?
I can't really comment much about the last generation because I never did real life driving in the last generation. I can tell you the new generation is on a different level to anything I've ever driven. I've driven a Aston Martin GT3 car at Donington, and I've driven the Porsche Cup at Spa, and when you're flat through Eau Rouge and Raidillon in a car with no traction control and no ABS, it is scary to say the least. You are when you go up Eau Rouge and Raidillon, your steering wheel needs to be straight, so you need to turn in, get the steering wheel straight. So even if it's a slide, you need to have the steering wheel straight for the next part, otherwise you spin off and you hit the wall. It happened twice on the day that I was there, and genuinely you just need to have a slide, and then you need to keep the steering wheel straight. So you're intentionally sliding the car to get it turned in. It is the drivers of these cars in sim and in real life are on a different level of. It's just extraordinary. There is no words how they drive them so quick. I was 4 seconds off the pace at Spa, and I was on the limit, and I mean properly on the limit. I don't know how they do it.
No, it is quite something else, isn't it, to actually watch them? I mean, I've been lucky enough to go and have a look at the couple of the Porsche Super Cup rounds at Silverstone and at Catalunya as well, and it was simply sublime. And the noise they make is ear-shattering, to be honest, and that's sort of the biggest takeaway I had, because I didn't actually ever get to race them. Obviously, I was watching my brother a little bit, so it was quite something. And I'll tell you what, being with Team Parker Racing, an awesome bunch of guys as well, a fantastic high-level race team as well. We'll have a chat a little bit more about that in the sort of coming races. Obviously, I mentioned it at the start, we've got a half-hour race followed by a 40-minute reverse grid race, as per usual for the Simracersworld European Porsche Cup Series. And the 40-minute sort of reverse grid race, Cameron, the reason why it's 40 minutes is they actually stuck a mandatory pit stop in there, so it offers up a little bit more in the way of sort of potential tactics to come into play as well. We've seen people pit right at the start when they don't necessarily think they're going to carve through the traffic and they'll lose too much time. They'll pit and they'll get some clean air. And we've seen people go right to the end, the penultimate lap before they come in. Funnily enough, that seems to be the way most winners are taking their course of action, is waiting that sort of length of time. But it does give you something to be continuously thinking about whilst you're also driving through traffic.
Yeah, these cars are just very difficult to drive on the limit. And especially when you add traffic into the equation, when you add door-to-door racing, when you add incidents, spins, the racing can get chaotic, but I can guarantee that these guys are some of the best drivers on this game, without a shadow of a doubt. And I reckon they'll be able to keep it on the track for the whole race. And I reckon we're in for some really, really good racing. We've got a 30-minute first race as the heat race, and then we've got a feature race just after that, which is reverse grid. So yeah, it'll be incredible.
Yeah, absolutely will be, as we see Paul Vega try and get a little bit of a slipstream on the 83 car. Now, there are a few sort of formalities, probably is the best word to say, to go through a few penalties after week 2, which was last time out at Spa, ironically, as we were just talking about Spa. Adam Delmont declassified in race 1 and was sent to last place. Michael Blake was also declassified in race 2, sent to last place. Adam McNally has got a qualifying ban because apparently he didn't hold the brakes, which caused more incidents in lap 1 incident at Spa as well. So if we don't see Adam McNally out in qualifying, that's potentially why. And I can confirm, actually, he was in the practice session. He is in this session now as well. He's in the qualifying, but obviously he hasn't taken to the track because he has got that qualifying ban. So we have 24 cars in total, even if only 23, well, actually 23 aren't even showing up, but we will just show up all 23 drivers. There we go, as we focus on Jason Rover, which is a bit of a nickname we've given Jason Rowe, because obviously his last name is spelled very much like the Rover race scene that race in all the sort of VLN rounds and all the endurance Blancpain rounds and everything like that. So we're giving Jason a very a kind nickname now, I think, for naming him after one of the best teams in endurance racing in the world. So there we go, Jason Rover in 21st position. He won't be too pleased with the position he currently finds himself in, but he'll be doing his best to try and improve upon such a feat. He's currently putting a 1:35.7. Now that is a good 2.5 seconds off Lewis Ward, who's currently got the pole position in his hands still. And actually he's held that pole position for quite a long time. It doesn't look like the track's getting any quicker at the moment, Cameron.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening to some of the guys here, but some of the guys are so much quicker than their times are actually suggesting. But you can see the whole grid is literally separated by, what is that? That's 2 seconds. That is incredible. Like, most of them are separated by less than a second. P6 of 34.0 going to P16, which is 10 places, are separated by a second. Like, that is the smallest mistake or the smallest gain in time on a lap can gain you 5 positions.
It can indeed. In fact, it's quite appropriate that we're looking at Miguel Freitas, because it is absolutely mad, the sort of the fact that these guys are within a second of each other, just like it says on the side of his car. Looking at Ryan Parkins, he's made himself up to 4th place. Now, he was literally about 3 thousandths of a second between himself and Lee Deemer at one point, while Parkins has moved himself into 4th place. Now, we were talking about Ryan Parkins while I was running down the championship a little bit. Normally, Ryan Parkins is right at the front of any Porsche race that he's involved in, basically, but in the championship standings wise, it hasn't quite gone his way so far. He's about 10-15 points off at the moment where he would like to be. When you are, and you might not know, Cameron, but Ryan has got a very calm and collected, just pick up the points style attitude towards racing. He doesn't necessarily just go all in, hell for leather, so it's not like he's causing himself sort of misfortune, shall we say. It's just the fact that he hasn't had the rub of the green so far. So when you are chasing championships like this and you want to try and catch those points back up, you started seeing 3 drivers pulling away slightly. Do you then move away from your conservative just pick up the points tactic and you try and aim to get a little bit more aggressive to try and make that look happen for you, or do you keep going with that conservative nature?
So last year I was doing the historic touring car championship, which is the national championship in France. I just see Miguel Freitas going straight on there. Doing a historic touring car championship in France, and I was pushing for P2 in the championship. And midway through the season, I realized I could still get it. And I could still get P2 if something happened. And then on the final race, it rained. So I decided to ease off, bring the car home, because I'd never done a wet race before. And then if I don't get second, I don't get second. Unfortunately for P2, he got disqualified from the race for having a dump valve on his car, which was illegal, which unfortunately put him out of the championship. So that's not how I wanted to come second, but I still came second. And if I hadn't have pushed just for one of those races and gained that little position, I wouldn't have won. So for me, you always have to push in a race. You always have to get the best position you can.
Well, we'll see if he takes your advice. But as the drivers finish qualifying, check the flag has dropped, and you can now see the grid for race number 1. Obviously, our 30-minute sprint race. Sprint in brackets, because the endurance race later on isn't exactly much further. Lewis Ward on pole position. Matthew Crisp in second place to high championship standards on the front row. And in second row, they're not far behind either, because Gavin Halls and Ryan Parkins are third and fourth for Porsche Sport. Fifth is Sam Bentham. PJ Clayton's is in sixth. Lee Deemer 7th. Carl Sharkey in 8th place. Paul Regan 9th. And rounding out the top 10 is Miguel Freitas. 11th is De Cooper with Mark Woodhouse in 12th position. 13th is Massimo Sufi with Michael Blake in 14th, Jerome Kaiser 15th, Jason Rover in 16th. He improved quite substantially. Jacco van der Plat is in 17th place with a new driver, Renzo. That's going to be a nightmare for me to say. I think his name is Joel Eulenbroek. I'm going to go for that one. 19th is Paul Godin, Jens Goosens in 20th, Wayne Palmer 21st, Mark Phillips, Craig Schill, and Adam McNally round out the 24 drivers that we've got here for you this evening. And I do apologise to Renzo Uhlenbroek if I have mispronounced your name. I will try and research how to say it for next time, or even in between races, so I can actually pronounce that properly. I do apologise if I have got that one wrong. So cars lining up on the grid. We can't really see it from this angle. There we go. That's probably a little bit of a better angle to see who's getting a good runaway. Matthew Crisp and Lewis Ward, they're not using the 4 positions that look like they're ahead of them. The start-finish line is just ahead of Lewis Ward, the top man on your screen at the moment. So we're not waiting for 4 extra drivers to join in, but we are waiting for PJ Clayton, who has just spawned himself in. There we go. And I think we're about to start. In fact, yeah, I think we're about to start getting the lights on our screen. With Lewis Ward on pole position, the lights come on, the engine notes rise, and for the first time this evening in the Porsche European Cup on Simracersworld, Lewis Ward gets an absolutely mega start, but it's made more significant by the fact that Matthew Crisp just didn't move off the line. Gavin Halls has got himself into second place. Lewis Ward goes wide. He's going to have the inside for the second corner, but that is crucial because Gavin Halls may well get a sniff at trying to get into this race lead. He's hunkered up the backside into the gearbox of Lewis Ward. He runs really far wide. Ward covers that off to the right-hand side, but it's going to have to be a defensive move into the chicane, into the double left-hander. There's cars going off in the background. We'll have a look who that is. I think Halls goes a little bit wide and Crisp comes back fighting.
Yeah, incredible start there by Lewis Ward. Just didn't move completely off the line. As we see Matthew Crisp and Gavin Halls going side by side. This is incredible racing. Is Gavin Halls going to hold it round the outside? Sorry, not Gavin. Is Matthew Crisp going to hold it round the outside? My apologies. And I don't think he did, but he's now under attack from Sam Bentham. Sorry, Sam Bentham, trying to attack Matthew Crisp when he's at his most vulnerable position. This is some incredible racing by these guys. Is he going to try and stick on his gearbox and get the draft down the straight? That would be the smart thing to do. Or you pass him when they don't expect it, going into the next corner. Matthew Crisp still sat on the box of Gavin Halls. I wonder if he's going to get him on the straight and try and get that draft all the way down the straight into turn 1. I really want to see how this is going to unfold. Matthew Crisp just following along from... Oh, this is going to be incredible racing from these guys. As we ride on board. Oh, braking a little bit earlier for Matthew Crisp, just so he's a bit cautious. As there's a lock up there from Gavin Halls in front. That means Matthew Crisp is going to get the run onto the short chute, going through the first complex He needs to get the slipstream and pass him on the inside. Is Gavin Halls going to defend from Matthew Crisp? I don't think he is. I think he thinks it's too early in the race. And Matthew Crisp moving to the inside into turn 3. And wow, Gavin Halls, incredible drive in there. Just saying a little bit earlier to defend the position. But gets a really bad run out of the corner. Matthew Crisp going side by side again in the same position with Gavin Halls. Sam Bentham just taking his time, seeing where he can pick up the places. As Matthew Crisp again tries around the outside. Isn't going to get it done. Is he going to go and try on the inside? No, he isn't. This is incredible racing.
It is extremely close, isn't it? As Chris looks to try and just hook his way into second place. Gavin Hall's given it everything he can to try and keep that way. But I'll tell you what, look at this. Lewis Ward 1.7 seconds ahead of Halls now because of all the messing around they're doing for second place. It's just allowing Lewis Ward to get his head down and get gone. And remember, Lewis Ward is joint second in the championship. Matthew Crisp is currently leading, but only by 3 points ahead of Gavin Halls and Lewis Ward, who are both ahead of him at the moment. So this is absolute nightmare, really, for Crisp. But it is only race 1. It is only round 5. We do have 6 evenings racing as well to be keeping up with. So 12 rounds in total. We are going to be over the halfway stage basically as soon as race 2 finishes tonight. That is the halfway stage. So it's not going to be do or die for any of these drivers, which is quite lucky if you're Ryan Parkins right now, because he's gone backwards 2 places off the race start. It's not been the start he was hoping for, and it's not been the start that Lee Deemer, Paul Rieger, or Wayne Palmer, or Mark Woodhouse were hoping for, or PJ Clayton's, because they have lost double figures. The amount of the double figure places and the amount they've lost. It's 11 places for Clayton's. Deemer with 13, Rieger with 12, Mark Woodhouse with 12, all off the start line. So we will keep an eye out on what on earth happened to all of them as soon as this driving gets a little bit, as soon as they calm down, basically, just a touch. Matthew Crisp is probably more under attack than he is the aggressor now, isn't he? Because Sam Bentham in the WesTech Autosport car, it's just that touch closer. He's about half a second away, whereas Halls is about 8/10 away from this little fight. And I remember cutting to this before. So Cameron, if you don't know, then WesTech Motorsport is our commentary friend Jack Werrell race team. He's started his own sim racing team, and Pete MacKay taking the mick a little bit, trying to poke some fun at him, sort of reminisced about how the N on the front of his car looks like the Hyundai like i30N logo, doesn't it, a little bit, which Jack didn't take too kindly for. But apart from that, it's a stunning car.
Yeah, definitely. I love the livery on it. But I do agree, it does look a little bit like the Hyundai logo.
Yeah, no, I agree as well, don't worry. I think most people do. If we slot back just outside the top 10, then there's even more battling going on. I'll tell you what, it's even closer as well. Because Jerome Kaiser and Matteo Sufi, and I tell you what, I was about to say they're within a tenth of each other, but just going a little bit wide then, I think, was Jaco van der Plaat. He's managed to just pull himself back in before Jens Goosens had a real go at him, and that actually just to split this train up just a touch. But this is the beauty of the European Porsche Cup Series that we've got here on Simracersworld.
Latter's going to get it done.
He is going to get it done, isn't he? He's looking, and he's looking hard. Just behind. No, he wasn't late enough on the brakes there, was he? But it's the beauty of the European Porsche Cup, isn't it? The fact that you can look anywhere on this grid, and there is ultimately close racing. Yeah,
definitely. The Porsche Cups, is this a fixed series? Sorry, I don't think it is.
No, it's not, sorry.
What is it? No, so it's an open setup series. So people can play with their setups during the whole series, the whole season. And I think that is genuinely a really good thing about this series, as we see Mathieu and Jeroen. Wow, this is incredible race. Is it Jeroen? No, Jeroen and Jaco, I think. Is it?
So it's Jeroen Kaiser that we're currently on board with.
Jeroen Kaiser and Mathieu Supi. Yeah, sorry, I really didn't really understand. But wow, look at that line there from Jeroen Kaiser. He's going to try and get the run onto the straight, sit in the slipstream of Mathieu, see if he can get the run into turn 1. As we see Jens Goosens going off. Unfortunate for him as the teammate there of who we were just watching. Very unfortunate. Yeah, just losing the rear end going around the corner. That's the problem with not having traction control. And then spinning around onto the grass. At least he kept it going and kept it out of all of the walls possible. But yeah, from P14 back down to the back, as we see Renzo and PJ fighting into turn 1. This is some incredible racing by these guys. He's going to try and get the run onto the straight coming out of turn 3. Is he going to try and look on the inside of the straight. Look at that sight of all those Porsches up ahead. Is he going to try and get the run into the inside? He's going to look for it. He's side by side. Is he going to? Nah, he backs out of it. That's a very good move. It's a little bit early into the race to start sending moves like that.
It's difficult, isn't it, in these cars as well, because you do feel like you should be able to make the move like that, shouldn't you? But if you just brake that little bit too hard, without ABS, it can be an absolute nightmare, and it can really scupper your tyres for the rest of the race, can't it? It's not as easy as it looks, and like you just said, Cameron, it's not necessarily the best timing to be sort of doing that, is it? You want to make sure that you're a little bit more into the race before you start risking your tyres. But then the tyres are slightly more degraded, so you're more likely to lock up. It's a high risk, high reward.
Yeah, you need to brake as late as you can. But honestly, it's why I like that, exactly like that. Mattia Supi trying to get the run on the brakes on Jason Rowe, or Rove as you guys are calling him. I wonder if Mattia Supi is going to get him into turn one. He's in a sandwich from these two team cars of Jeroen Kaiser and Jason Rove. Is he going to get run into turn one? I don't think it is. He's going to brake just that little bit earlier, but he is so good on the brakes, Mattia Supi.
Yeah, he is actually. Jason Rover is in, Jeroen Kaiser is in Team Mad, and they've reliably informed me that Jason Rover is running Team Mad solo. So I'm not entirely sure if there is a difference or whether they just accidentally filled the form in wrong, but at the moment I've filled it in that they're two separate teams. So if someone in the chat could let me know if Jason Rover and Jeroen Kaiser are technically in the same team or if they're just running slightly different.
Sorry to interrupt you there. Mattia Sufi and Jason Rove. Mattia Sufi and Jason Rove, and now the Team Mad Racing cars are going to have a battle behind. But I say Team Mad Racing cars, they're not really a team because they are two different teams with the same liveries in this series. And what a move there by Mattia Sufi. Can we get a replay of that one?
I'm just about to have a look and see if we can actually. Yeah, here we go into turn 3, then the double left-hander, and it's just because Rove went wide, didn't he? And he opened the door. And as soon as you open the door to Mattia Sufi, I've been covering him for a while in the NASCAR SRW series that we did. He doesn't wait around. As soon as there's a gap, he just goes for it, and that's what we quite like about Matteo, which is also makes great for entertaining, isn't it? And he is now into the top 10. And I have to say, this is the closest battle we've got on circuit at the moment, because the top 10 are all separated by about a second between each other, which is quite unusual to be honest. But it's not so unusual when you have a grid determined by qualifying, which sounds like it should be every single race is dictated by that. But, the reverse grid race can sometimes throw up some little differences. But when you get a qualified grid, you almost feel like, everything's a little bit more calm, don't you, in the majority, especially the top 10. Everybody sort of beds themselves into the race and picks up the points. They're almost where they deserve to be, which I suppose is logical sense, considering they've spent 20 minutes qualifying.
Yeah, the qualifying in these races can be, if you make a tiny... Sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt myself there as we see PJ and Renzo having a little battle. PJ and Jacko, having a little battle. And PJ's going to try and get the inside of Jacko. They're going to go side by side as we see two mad cars going side by side as well. Oh, this is incredible racing as PJ tries to hang it around the outside. Is he going to get it done? I don't think he is into that corner, but he's still on the outside, braking as late as possible. Still on the outside of Jacko. Is he going to... Yes, he is getting on the inside. What? Oh, he's still not done it. Yes, he has. What a move there by PJ. It's on the outside of most of those corners, just holding on for dear life. And is he going to try and get Jason Rove as well before the end of the lap? I think he may be able to get the slipstream down the straight or coming into the final sector at least. He's going to use all of the grass on the outside, or the artificial grass, sorry. Oh, that is so close by PJ. PJ going to try and get the run on Jason Rove. Going all the way down the straight, moving to the outside, going onto the straight. That's a very bold move there by PJ, and I think he's still on the outside. Yes, he is. Has he got some extra power in his car or something? This is incredible by PJ, still holding the outside. Is he going to get the move done even before turn 1, or is Jason Rove going to fight? Jason Rove moves back in. PJ makes 2 positions on that lap, and both moves were on the outside. What? That's incredible racing there by PJ Claessens.
Yeah, it looks like that Clayson stuck a Shark e-bike into his rear axle there, and just gave him that extra brake horsepower or two, which you guys can too at home. With you check out the links down below. You can check out Shark e-bikes as you see their logo currently flashing along your screen. That's a fantastic transition. I'm proud of that one.
Shameless plug, that one.
Oh, shameless! Yeah, absolutely. They're proud sponsors of the series, and why not get their names in when I see the opportunity? A little bit further down, I mean, I say a little bit further down, literally the car behind is actually the closest battle we've got on circuit at the moment. Jason Rover now obviously dropping down a few positions. He did gain 3 positions, no, we say gained 6 positions off the racing line actually. He's now up, he's still in the black, shall we say, because he's up 3 places still. Jaco van der Plat also up 3 places. Due to the fact that quite a lot of other drivers have had unfortunate incidents. Speaking of unfortunate incidents, Paul Rieger has come up on my highlights counter as having a little bit of a spin. Oh, this may be wide. Oh, to be fair, I don't know if that counts as a full spin there, Cameron, because he sort of knew it was coming and came to a tentative halt. If
you don't get a loss of control, it's not a spin.
Exactly.
He wouldn't have got a loss of control, so that's not a spin. That is a lapse of talent, is what I'd call it.
Well, iRacing called it a crash, so I think we should have a word with iRacing.
PJ going on the inside.
Yeah.
Oh, and he's done it. Wow. Team Mad's cars are being very cautious tonight.
They are indeed, and PJ, to be fair, he has lost 5 positions from where he started, and that's the fact that he's now up to 11th place. He qualified in 6th position, so I was actually just coming to have a look at what happened to him right at the start, because it is uncharacteristic. He's not in the position where he deserves to be from qualifying. And if we have a look at what happened to PJ, there we go, he gets turned around by the number 25 car of Ryan Parkins. So a little bit too close, and then just gets the rear end on the grass, so nothing major, no damage to be taken by PJ. But still, that's dropped him all the way down here as we see more Team Mad and Shark cars going at each other. I think that was Mark Woodhouse hitting each other, and then he managed to avoid the next incident as well. So actually, he got quite lucky in all of that.
Yeah, that was incredibly lucky by PJ. I thought he was definitely getting turned around, but he didn't, so good on him, I guess.
Exactly, and we are just going to have a very quick look at Mark Woodhouse's perspective of this race start as well, because I think Mark Woodhouse was the driver that ended up upside down. In fact, can we actually get a better one than this? Yeah, we can. So he's just going towards the left. I think he's in the 999 car, and then he just gets tapped, doesn't he? And, I mean, that's just a lack of spatial awareness from probably both cars, but it did look like Mark Woodhouse was just moving to the left. So the 999 car in the middle of the sort of track at the moment. Oh, I don't know, it's just a racing coming together, doesn't it? It looked like both cars slightly turned into each other.
Yeah, I mean, that's a racing incident there. You can't say any more than that.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, that is the way it goes sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And now things have closed up slightly again. Just ahead of these guys, Sam Bentham, I would get that name out eventually. Sam Bentham and Ryan Parkins fighting over 4th place, and Carl Sharkey, Miguel Freitas over 6th place. And then you've got Niels de Cooper, who we're currently having a look at, and Michael Blake within 4/10 of each other. And then Matteo Suvi and PJ Clayson's yet again going at each other by less than a tenth. In fact, they're going side by side. So why don't we have a look at PJ Clayson's making another position here, and I think that's about 4 places and 4 laps that he's managed to gain. He's now cracked the top 10, has Clayson's, as we now focus a bit further forward back to the Westech Autosport driver as Sam Bentham, who, remember, Cameron, was actually fighting Matthew Crisp in the Alcontech NHR car right at the beginning, but he couldn't quite get the pace on him, and by the looks of it, he's dropped back.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is the way it goes. There's a little bit of wall left from Sam Bentham. Sorry, I'm going to have to cut back from that. I really wonder if Ryan... This is some incredible racing. I'm going to do this again. Ryan Parkins may be able to get the run on Sam Bentham going into turn 1. I really wonder if he is going to get it done as he's... Whoa, Sam Bentham getting on the defensive and forcing Ryan Parkins to the outside. Is Ryan Parkins going to try to cut back or holding it around the outside? He's going to try and hold it around the outside through turn 1. And on the inside, what a move there from Ryan Parkins. Incredible move for a podium position. Oh, sorry, not a podium position, for P4. What an incredible move up front.
I'll tell you what,
it's not over. Hang on, sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt you there. It's not over yet. Just thinking Sam Bentham may be able to go on the inside, braking as late as he possibly can. And that is incredibly close from these two. Yeah. All right, I think that was over. You may say what you're going to say. I'm sorry.
It's all right. I was about to say that Ryan Parkins, obviously we were were estimating about how aggressive he was going to be, how much he's going to go forward. Obviously, the race start didn't go his way, but now he's back into his natural qualifying position. And ironically, so is Sam Bentham after that move, actually. Parkins qualified 4th, Bentham was in 5th. But, you know, he's needing to make these moves back now, isn't it? It's not all sunshine and fairies, shall we say, for Ryan Parkins. He needs to make the look happen for himself as he locks up just a touch as we're talking about this. That shows just how aggressive he's going on the tyres now. Crucially, the reason why I say that is because the 3 drivers who are ahead of him in the championship are the 3 drivers ahead of him on the road as well. Lewis Ward, Gavin Halls and Matthew Crisp. Crisp and Halls have swapped over positions from when they qualified, but apart from that, the top 5 are pretty much as they were. In fact, only Ward, Parkins and Bentham are in the same place that they started in. And we haven't managed to look at Lewis Ward very often, so why not we give the Team 11 driver a little bit of screen time and giving his teammate plenty of screen time, the Team 11 car of PJ Cloyson's. But Lewis Ward, not really been seen much, has he? Because he got an absolutely fantastic start off the line.
Yeah, a fantastic start, and we both mentioned it as soon as he left the line. And he's just holding that gap, about 2.5 seconds. That's all he needs to hold. Probably about... I have just realised who Lewis Ward is. So, Lewis Ward... Sorry, this is completely off sidetracked. Lewis Ward is Racing Line Designs. It's on the front of his car. Lewis Ward very, very kindly made me a commission for my race car, which is a Golf Mark II, and it is really, really good.
It's weird, isn't it, when you all of a sudden just click that you've been commentating on people or that you've sort of been linked with people before, because when you're just reading the name off a list, it's quite hard to see. But it's nice that you made that connection and gave him a bit of a shout out there, because I'm guessing you would advocate for his work.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, his work is incredible. It is graphic design at its finest, and I really, really... I mean, you just look at the livery. The livery is just amazing at the start. Racing Line Designs, I really do recommend.
There we go, Lewis Ward, a free plug for you, because that's something that neither me or Pete had pointed out at all or even clocked. So that's quite nice to see. Now, a driver that we haven't spoken about that much, going completely to the other end of the spectrum here in terms of the where they're placed in the race at the moment. Adam McNally. Now, I've been commentating on Adam for quite some time, and we have commented on his Excite designed Porsche quite a few times as well. He didn't manage to qualify because he was given a penalty from the races at Spa. So he obviously started right at the back. Now, I think we're about to see he was involved in the big crash. There we go. That involved right at the start, and that was with the 83 Team Mad car as well, who I'm just trying to find out. I'm just basically trying to dissect who was involved in what crashes. That was Mark Woodhouse. So Mark Woodhouse was actually involved with 2 crashes in that race, at the beginning of this race. Wayne Palmer also had an incident. Oh, that was Wayne Palmer got involved in an incident far before this. Was he the start? It's quite hard to see. Oh, he's going to... Yeah, there we go. He had to take evasive action into the wall, didn't he? So that's why Wayne Palmer is unfortunately about 4 laps down. So if anybody out there is hoping to see Wayne Palmer, you're unlikely to see him for the rest of the evening, unfortunately. Well, for the rest of this race, anyway. Jaco van der Plat, Niels de Cooper. Sorry, no, got that wrong. I'm looking the wrong way. Jaco van der Plat, Jerome Kaiser and Jason Rover in the Team Mad cars. Again, basically stuck to each other, aren't they, the 2 Team Mads? They're pretty much identical on pace at the moment.
Yeah, they're... I mean, I've always watched Team Mad. I've always seen how they drive, and some of their racing is absolutely incredible. The way they stick on each other's bumper and absolutely send it is something that I really enjoy watching through every race that I've seen them do, and yeah, it's just incredible racing. The same for Michael Blake and Niels Cooper, or Kuiper. Sorry if I butchered your name. But oh, look at that livery though. I'm sorry. Just look at that livery on Michael Blake. Incredible work for some of these guys to get these liveries the best they can be. And I wonder if PJ is going to get... Not PJ, sorry. And Niels Kuiper is going to get close enough. He is going to do if Michael Blake starts sliding like he just did. Michael Blake also from the Mad Sim Racing team. So, yeah, it's another car in a very nice livery.
Yeah, well, that's why I sort of transitioned slightly to Michael Blake, because he is racing for Team Mad / Simmortal as well. And obviously, if you want to have a look at what Simmortal are here packing, well, they are a proud sponsor of this series as well, and their link is down in the description. So we've already given Shark e-bikes another little plug. Well, here's a shameless other plug for Simmortal Sim Racing Models. So if you want to go and have a look at why Michael Blake is sporting the fantastic multicolours that he is, then you can go and have a look in the description. But obviously opening it in a new tab, because you want to keep the tab that you're watching this open as well, so you can hear our fantastic voices in case anything sort of massive happens. Speaking of things that are happening, Paul Godin in the Sim Stickers car is nice and close to Renzo sorry, I'm going to keep saying this wrong. Eulenbroek? I'm going to say Eulenbroek for now.
It's Eulenbroek.
Eulenbroek, sorry. I'm really not very good at reading out those names very quickly. I'm going to call him Renzo for now, just because it looks like things are about to get spicy. Oh, Jaco van der Plat has managed to get himself spicy, and also quite grassy as well. He's slipping down to 16th place after we were just focusing on him for quite a while. What on earth has happened to Jaco van der Plat? We're going to have a quick look. Ooh.
Yeah, just losing on exit, but he didn't get a loss of control. He only got an off track, so he probably didn't get an off track. So, as we said, doesn't count as a spin because there's no loss of control. So nothing ever happened.
Well, apart from the fact that he lost about 5 places, yeah, nothing ever happened. I'm sure he'll be fine. But no, obviously, we've seen good pace from Jaco, and he's still actually on positive from where he qualified in 17th. So you never know, he could come back fighting strong in race number 2 of the evening, which obviously is coming up fairly soon, in probably about 15 minutes time, actually, because we are 7 minutes to go in this first heat of the evening. And well, the closest battles are actually out on circuit. Matteo Sufi has dropped right down the order, and this is the reason why, I think, going into turn 1. Oh, classic Porsche over rotation.
Not even that. If you look very carefully, he hits the wall and turning around as well. If you look very carefully going around the corner, he dabs his brakes. Just watch here. He just dabs his brakes again, and yet there, that's what spins him around. It's not over rotation. That's losing it. That's trying to slow down at mid-corner, and that never works. It could be dropping a gear too late. It could be just dabbing the brake going through the corner, but yeah, that really wasn't his... He couldn't really do anything once it's gone there.
Yeah, just sending too much speed in, I think, because that's why, obviously, he felt like he had to touch the brakes halfway through the corner. So, not ideal for Matteo Sufi in 17th position. Now, Jerome Kaiser for the Team Mad car and Jason Rover. That means they have gained a couple of positions yet again. They're back into the fight for the top 10 positions, but at the moment that's currently held by Niels de Cooper, who is in 10th place, and then there's quite a little bit of a gap to Michael Blake. Lewis Ward, Gavin Halls and Matthew Crisp all have about 3 seconds between each other at the moment for the podium places, and Ryan Parkins, although going a couple of tenths quicker per lap than Matthew Crisp, is not looking like he's really able to catch up to the podium sitters at the moment, so we may well have to try and fight another day in race number 2 to try and claw back some championship points. Jerome Kaiser and Lee Deemer here. So we had a look at Adam McNally in the Excite Racing team. Well, his teammate Lee Deemer, who has lost 6 positions off the start, he qualified in 7th place. He's now in 13th, which is not ideal for Lee Deemer. We'll keep an eye on him, see how well he can recover, but he's currently fighting with the Team Mad cars, who basically have been involved in all the action that we've seen on screen today. They've been getting some fantastic coverage tonight.
Yeah, well, they're just having some good races. Just while we're on the topic of shameless plugs, I will tell you in a minute, as Lee Deemer and Johan Kaiser, Lee Deemer trying to get the cutback, defending there from Johan Kaiser. This is going to be an incredible battle going onto the straight. Lee Deemer should just hold behind, get the brakes as late as possible, and try and get Johan Kaiser on the straight. And I think that's his plan. It's a really long straight here at Interlagos, so I really do think he's going to be able to get it done, as we see Lee Deemer getting that sweet draft all the way down this really long straight and just moving out of the draft there. Is he going to try and move to the inside going into the corner? I don't think he is. I think he's going to just leave it a little bit later, and there's a little bit of a lock-up there in front. I think that was Jason Rove, as we see Lee Deemer again trying to get the move done on Jeroen Kaiser. I think he's going to try and get it on a straight or going on the brakes into a corner. Or he's going to hold it around the outside through a corner. I really don't No, as he is just going to hold it behind your own Kaiser. I'll just go over something. While we're on the topic of shameless plugs, I also bought stickers from Sim Stickers. And
Oh, there we go.
they have brand new stock of fluorescent yellow.
Oh, are you there, Cameron?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, just about. Yeah, I think you lagged out there, but do carry on. You bought some Sim stickers.
Yeah, I did. They have a brand new one called UV light stickers, and they glow in the dark. And I have got to admit, if you like sim racing at night, these are the stickers for you. They are incredible. They fit over every single button you have. They're just normal sizes. You can quickly stick them on. They're very easy to do with a pair of tweezers. So yeah, I highly recommend Sim Stickers to get your stickers, especially as they are fluorescent, which is just outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, I've been hoping to get some personalised stickers, some Jacko Racing style stickers, and I know that Simracersworld, I know Ian, the boss at Simracersworld, has gotten some personalised Sim Racing World stickers you may have seen in the Discord, Cameron. I wonder if Sim Stickers can actually do sort of personalised one. It'd be absolutely awesome to get in touch with Paul Godin. If you're watching this, then do drop a comment and let us know if you can. But at the moment, you were looking at Jerome Kaiser and Lee Deemer still going at it. We've only got we've got pretty much 2 minutes to go, which is quite incredible. Which I think is about. I think we're gonna have this will be the penultimate lap of the race. Clearly, Lee Deemer is either trying to put off Kaiser or he's trying to say I wasn't very happy with something you just did. I'm not sure if I saw anything that was untoward there. Cameron, did you?
No, I didn't either. I think that's just him trying to put him off. It happens. That's racing, but yeah, that's just racing. Flashing is part of it. Excessive flashing is a little bit meh, but yeah, you can flash just a little bit to try and put them off going into corners. I do it, and I know a lot of other people do as well.
I was going to ask what your stance was on flashing and lights, because I always thought it was just something that happens. You know, see it a lot, obviously, don't you? But then a lot of people have commented saying on streams that I've done in the past, basically saying that it's unsportsmanlike and they shouldn't be doing it and all this, that, and the other. And in my opinion, if you're not doing it excessively, you're just doing it sort of along the straights to make sure the person sees you in your mirrors and filling your mirrors basically, and then I don't see any problem with it. The best drivers would never really look in their rearview mirrors, see a flashing light, and then sort of mess something up. It's a test of the driver's ability to take pressure.
Yeah, exactly. It's just pressure, and that is absorbing pressure. Nowadays, it happens in every single race that you see, and yeah, you just have to live with it. In all of the races that I do, it happens, and yeah, it's just part of racing nowadays.
Speaking of part of racing, also winning is obviously part of racing, and it's something that Lewis Ward has started to do more and more often. He actually won the second race at the Hungaroring, managing to fight his way through the order in the reverse grid 40-minute race and take his pit stop on the final, I think, penultimate lap of the race. Actually, it wasn't the final lap, but the penultimate lap of the race. There we go, finally got it out of my mouth. And he actually managed to get a gap so big that he managed to get in, basically took a free pit stop and got out in the race lead and took the race victory. Well, here tonight, he's going to manage to do that on the first heat at Interlagos, and it's been an absolutely dominant display by Lewis Ward, qualified on pole position, and he's going to take the checkered flag for the round 5 here at the Simracersworld European Porsche Cup. Gavin Hall makes one position to finish in second place, with Matthew Crisp and the Alcantech NHR car coming home in third, but only just as Ryan Parkins caught him in the final lap of the race. But he still came home in fourth. Ryan Parkins showing that he does have good pace compared to those ahead of him, but he couldn't quite get the points that he probably thought he deserved with the pace that he showed. Sam Bentham in the WesTech Autosport car came home in 5th place as well. And hopefully we'll be able to have a chat with one or two of our drivers in between race 1 and 2. Normally it takes about 5 to 10 minutes to actually get into race 2. I think it's about 10 minutes. So we'll probably just have a little bit of a chat, Cameron, about all things motorsport, maybe what you're up to in real life, what you're up to in the sim and everything like that along with it. But first, we've got to run down some finishing orders as Craig Schill comes across the line. And then we just got Paul Rieger and Adam McNally to finish out the order. Adam McNally just coming round the final, I think this is actually classified as the penultimate corner, as the straight is not really a straight.
It is, yeah. it definitely is. That's actually the penultimate corner that he's going around now. And then this is the final corner classed on iRacing. It is wrong, I will have to admit it. But yeah, that is. Adam McNally is having a little bit of fun there with his lights. I do that every single time, no matter what position I'm in. So good on him.
Well, you might as well, mightn't you? And we can bring up the race results for heat number 1, actually, and they should be on the screens right about now. Lewis Ward took the victory by 4.1 seconds ahead of Gavin Ward. That means Lewis will have probably managed to just about close that gap up championship-wise to just about start leading it. Matthew Crisp came home rounding out the podium places. He won't be too bothered about the fact that he's lost the championship. He'll still be within touching distance. Ryan Parkins in 4th place. Fantastic pace, but didn't quite have the track position for it. Sam Bentham rounds out the top 10. Miguel Freitas in 6th place. Carl Sharkey in 7th. PJ Clayson's recovered to 11th place after an earlier spin. He showed fantastic pace as well. Michael Blake in 9th. Niels de Cooper rounds out the top 10. Jason Rover was in 11th place. And on our screens, pretty much constantly, along with his teammate Jerome Kaiser in 12th position. Lee Deemer was in 13th, the hire of the Excite Racing cars, and also gave us some drama to watch at the end of that race. Renzo Uhlenbroek is in 14th place. Paul Godin ends up in 15th with a nice plug by Cameron just before for Sim stickers. Jaco van der Plaat in 16th with Jens Guzens 17th. Matteo Sufi dropped down to 18th place after a strong start by the Belgian. Craig Schill ended up 19th. Paul Rieger in 20th place. Adam McNally is 21st after a rather big crash on race number 1 and a qualifying disqualification as well. Mark Woodhouse was a lap down, Wayne Palmer was 11 laps down, and Mark Phillips was 15 laps down in the end for Strasser Motorsport. So, race 1 done and dusted. Cameron, that was your first taste, really, of the Simracersworld European Porsche Cup. How did you find it, and what, I suppose, do you expect to go into the 40-minute race with that inclusion of that mandatory pit stop?
I'm expecting closer racing. I'm expecting... Actually, no, I'm not. I'm expecting the exact same thing as we saw there. There's going to be a pit stop, which brings a little bit of strategy, so we may see saving tyres. But I've never seen anyone save tyres in a Porsche Cup car. They just go for it, and that is the way that these cars are meant to be driven. Flat out for about 40, 50 minutes, and I think the racing is going to be the same, if not better, than what we just saw, which is going to be a pleasure to watch, because that one was still amazing.
It absolutely was. And before we get into sort of, I suppose, what you're doing in real life or what you're doing in the sim and everything, Cameron, basically another shameless plug for our sponsors of the series as well, Shark e-bikes and Simmortal sim racing models. We didn't mention them anywhere near enough in the first 2 races, so we're giving them all the attention here today at Interlagos. If you do want to have a check out of what they do, again, not that difficult to figure out based on their names, but you can look in the description. The links will be there and wherever you're watching this, basically. But remember to open it on a new tab so you don't shoot away from this broadcast, because you don't want to miss what's happening in about 10 minutes time. Shark e-bikes, a fantastic product and very well priced as well. Simmortal sim racing models for all you collectors out there looking to try and expand your collection, basically. So Cameron, obviously you've alluded to the fact that you've driven this car, and tell us how that came about, really, with Team Parker Racing. Was it a case of you had a previous relationship? Was it a series that you were looking to get into? What's the crack with it?
I sent him a message on Instagram. And then I got to Spa.
You slid into a team's DMs and they offered you a car at Spa.
Not that easy. So I quickly sent a message on Instagram saying, "Hey, I see you're driving to Spa. Any chance I can hop in?" And they were like, what have you done before? I gave them a quick call. I gave them my achievements, and they were like, yeah, why not? So yeah, I hopped in the car and I did about a day's worth there. But unpopular opinion incoming, so if you don't like unpopular opinions, don't listen. I didn't like it. I didn't pretty much like how it drove. I liked the car, I've got to admit. I did like the car in general. I only get told off from Porsche for this. I like the car, but I prefer my little Golf. My little Golf is my favorite car that I've ever driven. It's a Golf Mark II. Front-wheel drive that I'm racing. Oh my god, hang on. What's the date? I'm racing it in a week. I'm racing it in a week. I am totally not prepared.
Where are you racing it? Do you even know that, or is that putting you on the spot?
No, I know. So I'm going to Albi So I live in France, which is another unknown fact. Yeah, so I live in France. I am Irish by nationality, Manx by place I was born, and I live in France. Manx is the Isle of Man for people that don't know. I am going to Albi in a week, so it's going to be the Thursday afternoon we leave. Practice on Friday, qualifying on Saturday, race 1 on Saturday afternoon, evening, and race 2 on Sunday. It's going to be an incredible weekend, and I'm going to try and I'm going to get videos of the races at least on my GoPro, and if I'm able to, I'm going to live stream them from my GoPro straight away onto YouTube. So I am hoping that they will be that is possible, but we'll have to wait and see, I guess.
I did that, it's not strictly, it's a bit cheeky, isn't it, really? Because you're not supposed to take your phone or anything out onto circuit with you, are you? But I think I did it on a test day or a track day sort of thing, and I just wanted, it was a purely experimental thing, because I wanted to see if my GoPro, which does support live streaming, if it would work, basically. So I set it all up, and then I did, I had some shorts on, like sports shorts underneath my race suit, and my fireproofs, obviously, and all that sort of thing. And I it was a track day, actually, so I didn't even need all that stuff on. But I sort of slipped that in, and one of those portable 4G hub things. And it tell you what, it did work, actually. It was really cool, bit of footage. So if you can get that, I mean, during the race might be a bit difficult, but if you can get that sort of thing, it'd be a really sort of good bit of footage to have. So you're telling me, because this is, I'm assuming the comments are about to rain down with fire on you. You're telling me that you prefer to drive a front-wheel drive, low-powered old Golf compared to a rear-wheel drive, highly race-spec'd out Porsche 911 Cup car around Spa.
Yes, and I have reasons.
Well, I think you need to explain them, because I think you're about to get kicked off air.
So the Porsche Cup car is good in every single way. There is nothing I can knock it about, but there's a big difference between racing I would say meh Golf Mark II on circuits that are unknown to most people, and driving a Porsche Cup car round Spa and all of those sorts of circuits. It is. I've just seen the grid pop up. I'll finish off and then you can go through it. Yeah, there's a big difference. Porsche Cup cars are a lot higher, and I don't particularally like it.
Fair enough.
The reason.
You can expand on it in a little bit, because this has taken us by surprise slightly, because it was 7 minutes instead of 10 minutes, where it normally is. So, anyway, Paul Rieger on pole position, Craig Schill is in second place, Matteo Sufi is in third, Jens Guzen in fourth, Jaco van der Plat in fifth, Paul Godin in sixth place, Renzo Uhlenbroek is in seventh place, Lee Diemer in eighth, Jerome Kaiser ninth, and Jason Rowe round out the top 10. Niels Cooper in 11th place, with Michael Blake in 12th. 13th is PJ Clayson, Carl Sharkey 14th, Miguel Fleitas in 15th, Sam Bentham in 16th place, Ryan Park in 17th, Matthew Crisp 18th, Gavin Halls and Lewis Ward round out your top 20. So it's a top 20 reverse grid, but unfortunately we're about to start racing here, because the lights are coming on and the engine notes are rising. With Paul Rieger on pole position, we're used to seeing a Shark e-bikes car on pole. It's not necessarily always Paul Rieger, but he is a very, very quick driver. He did a fantastic job at Spa last week, so let's see if he can carry on that sort of form. Matthew Sufi goes wide around the outside of the Westech Motor Autosport car of Craig Schill, who has slopped down one position. No big dramas yet, but we aren't even round the third corner yet, so let's hold our breath slightly. Gavin Halls is up 4 positions. I can tell you he's in 15th at the moment. Keep an eye on the bottom half of your screen, because it is a top 20 reverse grid. In fact, look at the top, because they're all queuing up after each other. Let's go and have a look how Jason Rover's getting on in 11th place, with Miguel Freitas around him, and PJ Clayson, Niels Cooper, Gavin Halls in there as well. Big movers and shakers really only is Gavin Halls. Everybody else has been pretty calm and collected about it.
Yeah, it was a very good start there from Rieger, and I think this is going to be incredible racing yet again, as we see some of the guys going most of the guys going side by side. I can't give you exact names because they're pretty much all doing it. This is some incredible racing from these guys, as it is always, and we're just going to have to watch here. Big spin there, and that's going to be a massive accident from everybody. Massive, massive crash. Oh, what a shame for some of the guys. Some guys lost rear wings, some guys have been spun round, and most of them avoided it, which is which is good. But yeah, Jaco Platt there, he's definitely got suspension damage on his car. There's a rear wing on the floor. Very unfortunate for them.
I tell you what, who is not unfortunate for, and that is Gavin Halls, who's now up 11 positions into 8th place, and Lewis Ward, race 1 winner as well, up to 9th. So those 2 drivers absolutely thrilled, and Matthew Crisp up to 10th as well. So those 3 drivers who were all on the podium in the last race managed to avoid that. And remember, they're the championship protagonists, as well as Lewis Ward looks to be going up the inside of Gavin. No, it wasn't Lewis Halls, it was PJ Clayson, sorry. Up the inside of Michael Blake. They are in pretty much identical cars, so you will forgive me for getting that slightly wrong. It was always frustrating as a commentator when you see identical cars and they're running pretty much neck and neck to each other as well. Always hard to see who is who. But Clayson's, who is used to overtaking people at Interlagos. Oh, look at that in the background as well. Gavin Hall's going on the offensive against Jerome Kleiser, and then Lewis Ward having to force his way through as well because he can't afford to lose Gavin Halls here. He just needs to stick on the back of him. But look at this, he's not just satisfied with sticking on the back of him. He's going around the outside through the double right-hander, and I'm focusing on the wrong person. Get the cameras to the right people here, Jack, come on, because it looks like Lewis Ward is still there, but he's not going to have the momentum around the outside there in such a heavy braking, slow right-hander, especially for the quick flick left as well. So Gavin Hall still leads Lewis Ward, but Paul Rieger leads them all.
Yeah, it's some incredible racing from these guys. It is incredible to watch these guys just drive, never mind race. As we see Lewis Ward, the winner of race 1, right on the back of Gavin Halls. He's going to get the move done as we ride on board. What a view that is in this Porsche Cup car. I'm just going to be quiet and you can listen to this engine roar.
It's a hell of a sound, isn't it?
That dentist drill noise in 6th gear. What a noise that is. As we see Michael Blake and Gavin Halls having a battle. Gavin Halls, there's no right. You know, racing is exciting when no words come out of your mouth and only noises come out. This is incredible racing by Michael Blake and Gavin Halls. Gavin Halls did lock up going into turn 1, and yeah, that was the issue. But as we see Lewis Ward go on the inside of Michael Blake, why did you cut away?
I didn't see it. I'm sorry. I didn't realise Lance Stroll was in the session. My apologies there. Lewis Ward did get past. Sorry, he hasn't. No, he has got past Michael Blake. I'm so sorry, people, for missing that one. I'll try and bring up a replay. I was looking for the replay of Michael Blake and Gavin Halls.
At least you got the job for F1, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. I'm good enough for this. Good enough for them now, aren't I? As Clayton goes on the inside of Renzo.
Oh, inside of Renzo. That's an incredible move there. Wow, this is some incredible. I can't believe you. You're incredible.
Oh dear. Right, anyway, shall we now have a very quick look at, in fact, no, Ryan Parkin's going up the inside of Jerome Kleiser. This is the problem. I wouldn't call it a problem. It's a pretty nice problem to have if you're broadcasting a reverse grid race of the European Porsche Cup, because you're just trying to focus on, there's 5 or 6 drivers who obviously performed well in race 1, and you've seen how they progress through the order, and they're pretty much constantly overtaking people, or they're involved in a crash, and luckily tonight, they're overtaking people constantly. So let's have a look at how Gavin Halls dispatches. Actually, no, Lewis Ward, sorry, is up to the back end of Gavin. I thought Gavin was on the back end of Renzo, but actually they're not there quite yet. Lewis still looking, but Gavin going defensive into T1. It means he won't have to defend into T2, but if he does run a little bit wide, that might compromise him and go a little bit tight, and Lewis Ward may well get the slipstream. But again, Gavin Halls, I imagine, there he goes a little bit wide, but he manages to get back on the circuit before Lewis looks up his inside, but he's going to be looking up it now. Who's the last of the late breakers? Renzo is going to get in the way here. Gavin Halls looks to the apex. He closed that door rather cheekily, I thought, to be honest. But Uhlenbroek is probably looking at his rearview mirrors thinking, oh my god, when the hell do I get out of the way?
Yeah, this is some incredible racing by these guys, and oh, it's so close. It is so close. It is incredible to watch, and honestly, I'm going to hand it over to you because I think I spoke too much and I need to get my breath back.
No worries. We're currently finding that Halls is probably unintentionally, I suppose, getting held up by Uhlenbroek, because it's not Broek's fault. But here goes on the inside, Lewis Ward, a massive move, a little bit of contact. I'd say that's probably more touring cars than Porsche racing, but given a flash of the lights, I think Gavin Halls agrees with me, as Lewis Ward just late on the brakes there, centred up the inside. I'll tell you what, I thought I was seeing Tom Ingram and my brother there at BTCC at Brands Hatch. It was a little bit late, it was a little bit cheeky, but probably at the end of the day, it will all be swept under the rug.
Or oh, here's the one right in the back. There's always right in the back. But Matt Neal, is it? No, Andy D.
Andy D, yeah, I was going to say, I wouldn't say Matt Neal. He's a dangerous person to throw. Oh, Gavin Halls is going up the inside of Lewis Ward. As we were trying to find out who the BTCC driver is, Ward is, I think, to be fair, actually, I'll give props to Ward there. I'm going to call that he let him back through because he didn't fight it hard under the defensive, did he? And I think he knew that he probably was a little bit cheeky, so he's probably avoided any further action or protest there by allowing Halls to move back, only to attack him one lap later, I'm sure.
Yeah, he had to allow that move back, but it's just so close between these guys. Like it's so close racing, and I think Lewis Ward is going to try and dive at the inside. No, he's going to sit behind him, right on his bumper, just putting pressure on him. These racing line design cars are amazing. I am going to have to get a quick message going with these guys and just thank them for my commission because I haven't thanked them personally, and also thank them for the incredible racing that they are giving us tonight. This is absolutely outstanding. As we see Gavin Halls trying for a move on Renzo, but Lewis Ward going on the inside. What a move from Lewis Ward. And Lewis Ward, I know, Lewis!
Oh, he hasn't lost it, he's fine.
If that was real racing, that would have been a penalty. Lewis just, can we get a replay of that just to watch that back? But that was very, very, very questionable, I think the word is.
Oh.
Yeah, Lewis Ward going for the move and not looking behind him, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, that's difficult, isn't it, really? But I don't think Gavin Halls was really close. I don't know. I think that's hard to place blame. Obviously, Oldenbrook was in no blame whatsoever because he's just driving his line. Like, he was absolutely fine. Obviously, both of the drivers had a little bit of overspeed, and I think they just committed just a touch too much into the corner. They're not out of the race. There's no big damage. That's the plus, isn't it? They didn't collect anybody else. So we actually get to enjoy these guys for 31 and a half minutes more of this race, which is quite sensational to even say, the fact that we've got that much left. PJ Claysons has overtaken Lee Deemer, and he's into third place now as we focus slightly further away, but on another Team 11 driver. Deemer looking to the outside, he's faking to the inside. He's not quite got the car set up to try and float the inside, but it doesn't matter because Claysons goes wide. Through goes Deemer and into the podium positions. Claysons having to settle for fourth and having to do the work yet again.
Yeah, it's some incredible racing by Deemer, and Deemer is one of the, I was going to say best drivers on the grid, but I can't say that. They're all equally as good as what that is. That was extremely close. I thought that was going to be an accident. This is some incredible racing by these two. Side by side, bumper to bumper, flashing on the brakes each time they go onto the brakes.
Absolutely, and I've actually just been informed. Sorry, I've just been informed by Bart Dalemans, actually, in the YouTube comments. I don't get to see them very often, especially in the reverse bit, that he's updated the Driver Championship standings. So as we keep an eye on this little battle for now, I don't think Clayson's going to be close enough to make the move. I will just say, well, I have to say that. One eye on the racing, and Clayson's is going for it. Clayson's is looking up the inside, and Deemer goes wide. He's forced the pressure, and he's forced the move, and Deemer's gone off. Deemer's gone off. And finally, Cameron classifies one of them as an actual spin. They have lost control. It's official.
Yeah, Lee Deemer, that was going to be very close there, rejoining into traffic from Lee Deemer. I wonder, yeah, let's just watch on board here from Lee Deemer. Rejoining into traffic, that was me extremely close from them. Yeah, just losing it on the, yeah, it's just so close. I mean, you can't criticize, that's the word, the errors that people do. There's so little margin for error in these.
Well, it's all about the delicacy of how you drive it with the pedals, isn't it? How you turn the car with the pedals, basically. Obviously, you trail brake into the corner, but if you come off too quickly, the rear end goes loose and it switches back round on you. Or, yeah, it's just the weight transfer, isn't it, in these cars? Taking speed in, they're hard to scrub the speed off and trail brake through. Very delicate on a knife edge. I was just about to say, and I'll very quickly get it in before the action starts again. Lewis Ward has taken the championship lead, but it's really not by a lot. He's 5 points ahead of Gavin Halls, and obviously those two drivers were fighting hand over fist in the action that we just saw. And then it's Matthew Crisp with 97 points, only 1 point behind Gavin Halls at the moment. However, Crisp is ahead of obviously Ward. He's 6th to 7th, isn't he now? So realistically, keep that in mind. It is now switched. It's Ward, Halls, and Crisp, and they're basically as close as they ever were in points. So keep that in mind as we search through the rest of the action, as we see Lewis Ward go the inside of Matthew Crisp. So as I was saying that Crisp is now ahead of Ward, Ward is now ahead of Crisp, but to be honest, it's impossible to keep up with everything at the moment. But I'll tell you one person who will be feeling aggrieved right now in the fact that he's not involved in this championship battle on track, and that is Gavin Halls, now in 10th place, and he's got a fair bit of catching up to do. You can see him just in the background of the Shark E-Bikes Porsche 911, Porsche Sport 911 car, but he's not really there to try and make amends just yet.
Yeah, it's really difficult to figure out because some of these guys are in the championship battle and they are fighting for the championship at all points, and then some of them are just out of the championship and here for a laugh. And that's when you get the racing. That's when you ask yourself if you're going to let people go. You should never let people go, but that's when you ask yourself, do you? And yeah, it gets so close so quick.
Does indeed. Jens Guzens, as unfortunately, I've just seen him come out of the pits. He's only on lap 2 as Mark Woodhouse goes wide, and that may well allow Gavin Halls to get 1 position at least. It's not going to be quite that easy because he's going to have to go the cutback route and try and get the overspeed, but Woodhouse sort of closes the door on that one as well. So Woodhouse somehow got away with that, I'd say, after fighting with Michael Blake. But yeah, Guzens is on lap 2, and everybody else is just about to... Well, Paul Rieger's just started lap 8 here today. So unfortunately, Guzens 6 laps down. I don't think he's moving anymore again, so I think Jens Guzens is going to drop out of this session, which is a bit of a shame. We don't like to see people dropping out. Mark Phillips in the Strasser car as well. He's also... he didn't join... Hold on. Hold the phone. Gavin Halls is in the pit lane. I thought he disconnected, or I thought he had a little bit of a lag moment, but Gavin Halls is now in the pit lane, and that is an absolute killer. No, it's not. Oh my God, I can't believe what I've just... I've spent half an hour of race 1, Cameron, saying about how in the 40-minute race, they have to do a pit stop. And I completely forgot about it as Halls came into the pits there. But Halls is now in the pits, and he is the leading car who has done a pit stop. So all of a sudden, you're starting to see the development of 2 races. It's quite interesting how this happens now. So everybody sort of bleeds into the pits of their own accords, and you've got to see who is leading the pit stops. And you've got to see the kind of time they take in the pit stop, and if the gap is big enough to sort of get themselves a free pass and all that sort of thing. So quite interesting. Gavin Halls in free air can get his head down.
I don't talk to idiots.
bit harsh, but I got there in the end.
No, like, yeah, sometimes it can get incredibly close, and you kind of lose yourself in what's happening. So yeah, I guess you're just stupid clinically. That's not my issue. You spent 40 minutes talking about how they had to stop.
Well, it's done.
Right, do you know what? I'm just gonna carry on. So I can't. Oh my God.
Well, what we can say is that Gavin Halls is in the lead of the drivers who have come into the pits, as we see a few more of them dive in, Lee Deemer being one of them. He's now dropping down the order, and it'll be a good indication of how long they take in the pit lane as well. So from the start, who's that going off? Is that Matthew Crisp rejoining? I think he just cut off the circuit. He did. Matthew Crisp went off the circuit. He's now joining back. He's behind Mark Woodhouse. He's behind Adam McNally, who's making a pretty good recovery drive, by the way, as well. No, he's not behind Adam McNally, who's just coming into shot, but he is behind all 3 of these drivers now, and that's going to be really hurting him because he was in clean air, and now he's not anymore. He's in a slightly more clean air now because Michael Blake has had a spin.
Yeah, unfortunately for Michael Blake, that's just losing it. And wow, he was lucky to not get hit or collected by anybody there. I do love that livery though, you've got to admit.
It is pretty stunning, isn't it, for the Team Mad and Simmortal car. So where's Matthew Crisp? He has still gained 10 positions. He is started in 10th place, in 18th place. Sorry, he's now in 8th. He must be thinking about now the sort of tactics of coming in, getting the pit stop done, and getting back out there in clean traffic. Because at the moment, behind Uhlenbrook, who, no disrespect to Renzo, he's holding people up a little bit, isn't he? He's doing a good job of keeping his line and defending well, but he isn't quite as quick as the drivers may be catching him. Chris might have the sort of better interest to get in and try and get some clean air.
Yeah, I mean, clean air is key for tyre saving, and fuel is obviously drafting for fuel is a little bit better, lifting and coasting. But I don't think they're going to be really worrying about that because it's only a 40-minute race, sorry. So yeah, it's just gonna be flat out on the limit all of the time.
Yeah, we have found at Spa especially there was a bit of a discrepancy between the times that people were taking in the pit. So, for instance, today it looks like 25, 26, maybe 27 seconds is the amount of time that you would expect to see in the pit lane. However, we have seen a few drivers, say Niels de Cooper, spend 34 seconds in the pit lane, so about 10 seconds more. And we did ask a few of the drivers last week, I think Gavin Halls actually was the one who answered it, about why there may be such a discrepancy between the amount of time that people take in the pits. And the only thing he could think of was the fact that maybe people accidentally take tyres, because you don't need to take tyres in a 40-minute race. It's not really give you any kind of advantage at any of the tracks apparently that we go to. But it can still, obviously, you have to remember to untick it. But as Carl Sharkey goes up the inside of Niels de Cooper, this is obviously a battle that's actually between the pitted cars now. So if you're looking at the pitted cars, you've got Gavin Halls currently in 13th place, and then all the way back down to Carl Sharkey, and obviously below as well in 18th place. So yeah, it's quite interesting the fact that obviously in iRacing, you have to tick. You have to go into the options and tick whether you want your tyres to be changed. And sometimes it's easy to forget that, isn't it? And you accidentally get the tyres changed, and all of a sudden that adds 10 seconds on, which can completely ruin your race.
I'm a victim of that, and I'm a victim of it too many times, and I need to stop doing it. So I have crew chief running at all times now. And there is actually a thing you can change in the INI file, which is a configuration file for this game. You can change it, and it means that your tyres aren't auto-selected. But I just use crew chief, so that works.
I was going to say, I've been guilty of it plenty of times, and I don't race that often because I'm not very good, which is the reason why I now shout at other people who are racing, because I found myself, I was racing, I was shouting at them anyway, so I thought, you know what, I'll just try and make some money out of it. But no, realistically though, I was not very good at the sim, and I always had that issue as well. I was concentrating so much on what I was doing on the circuit that I actually completely forgot about the whole crew chief and about the whole, selecting whether you want the damage repaired and all that sort of thing. So, I'd end up getting a tiny dint on the front end of my Mazda or something like that, and I didn't want it changed because it wouldn't make any difference. And of course, I'd have to sit there for an extra 7 seconds in a 5-minute race or something stupid, and get it checked, which obviously ruined my race completely. Matteo Sufi going a little bit wide on the back end there. Maybe we've seen a few spinners there, but I think Sufi's actually under a bit of pressure.
Yeah, there's definitely pressure being put on Sufi as... Oh, this is incredible. Definitely pressure being put on Sufi as PJ is trying to chase him down before they hit the pits. And it is going to be extremely close when they... Oh, this is going to be extremely close going into turn 1. I think PJ is going to get the move done. Yeah, easy for PJ. Easy work. Come all the way up the field. How many positions has PJ gained tonight? 11 positions for PJ. That is incredible. Mark Woodhouse, 16 positions. Wow. Yeah. That is driving.
It's absolutely mad, isn't it, when you get people who are gaining that amount of positions. But remember, quite a lot of it is because a few drivers are coming into the pit lane, so they get given those places, basically, don't they? And until you sort of see them pit in, you don't quite know how they're going to blend back in. What we can do is sort of have a look at the times that they are away from other drivers. So, say Gavin Hall's leading this battle. I didn't mean to click away from it, to be fair. But Gavin Hall's leading the pitted drivers. And we can say that he's about 28 seconds away from from PJ Clayton's on the screen at the moment. Now, the pit lane timer is about 27 seconds. So right now, I think Paul Rieger could probably have a free stop and still come out ahead of Gavin Halls. But Clayson's, it would be a bit touch and go. And that's just due to the fact that Gavin Halls has had free air and he's managed to get his head down and get cracking.
Yeah, free air is key around this track, as we've seen, and the drafts are pretty OP. Sorry about that. You caught me off guard. I was yawning. The drafts are pretty OP around this track, and definitely Paul Rieger. Just looking at the strength of field of this race, because I have race lab apps open while I'm in here. As we see Matthew Sophie going into the pits, we're just gonna have to watch on by Matthew Sophie, see where he comes out. But as I was saying, the strength of field of this race is 2.8k with all the drivers mixed in. And the leader, who is Paul Rieger, is miles off 2.8k. I think it's at 2.2. So he's doing incredibly well to keep it ahead here. as Lewis Ward is gaining time all the way up the field as well. It's still a tough battle to call, but I think with 40 minutes of racing, it's going to be close.
Well, Lewis Ward certainly has favoured the long stint in all the other evenings racings that we've had at the European Porsche Cup. As a big move up the inside there by WesTech Sam Bentham on Matthew Crisp. And I tell you what, this is actually a fairly close battle in terms of times as well. It's not Sam Bentham having a bit of a lucky move up the inside of Matthew Crisp. Crisp will be genuinely a bit worried about Bentham's pace, because although he wasn't necessarily on the podium places or anything like that, he was in 5th, and the 5th wasn't that far away, to be honest, from the podium pace. So Bentham really causing some issues by the looks of it. Adam McNally and Renzo Uhlenbroek is locked in battle, shall we say. Now, Adam McNally, obviously, enjoying a slightly better race, but he still does have a rather dented smirk on the front of his Porsches as he goes through, so clearly it's not affecting him too much. I'd have expected the front splitters to come off with the way his front end is looking, but he clearly doesn't have that much problems. These drivers all still waiting to come into the pit lane. Ryan Parkins has been caught by Lewis Ward. Now, Parkins needs to outscore the 3 other drivers that are behind him, remember. He is currently in 3rd place on the track, and I'm just very quickly going to have a very quick look at where he is. He's got 82 points, and Lewis Ward has got 103 points. So he's a full 21 points off the current championship leader, and Lewis Ward. Parkins really needs to start scoring some points back. That means he's going to have to go hard defensive throughout the rest of this race. Lewis Ward deciding that although he's been in quite a bit of traffic, he's not going to pit early.
No, I think Lewis Ward has planned out what he's going to do, and I think I know what he's going to do. He's just going to run the tyres and the fuel as long as he can and pit at the last minute, which gets him clean air. He's getting draft all the way up the field. I really do think he's going to get the move done quite easily and quite simply on Ryan Parkins, as long as he's a little bit patient.
Patience is the key. Just over halfway done on this feature race of the evening. And I'll tell you what, it feels like it's absolutely flown by, because it's almost felt like a sprint race, hasn't it? In the way that it's been set up. And I suppose we've had 20 odd minutes. It has pretty much been a sprint race, and now everybody's starting to get into the tactics of the race.
Yeah, there's definitely tactics. There's definitely pit stop strategies going on, and I think Lewis Ward honestly has got the best one, which is just flat out all the way until he stops. So yeah, it's incredible, and when is he gonna? I don't know when he's gonna pit, but it's gonna be really late on. I think it'll be around the 30-35 minute mark.
Yeah, I imagine so. As we're having a look, obviously Matteo Sufi was in 2nd place at one point. Then he came into the pit lane, and he spent 35 seconds there. So he lost about 7 seconds, which means he's now actually behind Gavin Halls, who was about 7th place when he pitted. So that just goes to show how sort of impactful maybe the undercut is here. Speaking of undercutting, I think Ryan Parkins is going to have to think about it, because he's got Lewis Ward up his inside, and he can't get the undercut, can Ryan Parkins. He can't get his car cut back in to try and get the sort of overspeed on the exit of the corner. He's having to settle for 4th place yet again, as he is in the championship, and he looks on the inside now. Lewis Ward gives him the move, gives him the room, and I think Ryan Parkins is basically a 3 apex right-hander. Ward trying to carry the momentum on the outside, which means he's going to have the apex for the inside for the left-hander. Parkins is not gonna get it done, but he has been given the room, to be fair, hasn't he, by Lewis Ward to try again. Another bite at the apple, and again they're gonna go to the left. This is basically side by side for the entire lap so far, but Parkins now slots into 4th place.
Yeah, it's getting really, really close. I really do wonder if they're actually gonna. Oh, there's the accident for Lewis. There's his little bit of Lewis. I don't know why that came into my head. There's the little bit of an off track from Lewis, and yeah, just letting Ryan through. Is Ryan going to pit this? No, he's not. So Lewis is still going to sit on his backside, and now this is going to be a battle going into turn 1 yet again.
I can't believe that these two haven't decided to pit, because they're just running out of time, basically, for so much, aren't they? But they're enjoying themselves, I'm sure. 2 drivers who know each other well have raced against each other a lot, and it looked like a little bit of a correction there by Lewis Ward. Now, I didn't think there was any kind of contact, but maybe there was a touch of netcode. Normally, if there is netcode, it ends in a much bigger crash, because iRacing basically poos itself and it decides that everybody's going to just have a crash. But I think it was just a little bit of a correction with the speed, as Lewis Ward is now throwing everything at it. Parkins basically white lining it on the exit of that corner, making Ward go to the left-hand side, which is the outside, obviously, run. They're not going to be... and there was a huge hit at the curb as well on the inside, which maybe unsettled Ward's car, which is maybe why he wasn't close enough to try and have a little bit of a nibble up his inside. But we have seen them basically continuously go side by side and basically try and move anywhere they can. Parkins, I would say, he's probably looking for a defensive drive now for as long as possible, holding Ward up. And that will play into the hands of the likes of Gavin Halls.
Yeah, Gavin Halls is in the best position here. He has... he pitted early, and now he knows how he needs to push, when he needs to push, and how hard he needs to push. And that's how you're meant to do it.
Absolutely, yeah, as we see now Ward versus Parkins for lap 3 in a row. Just trying to sort of size each other up. Neither have jumped into the pits yet again, which again astonishes me, because you'd have thought that they would just be slowing each other up so much, and the proof is in the pudding. As Ward goes to the inside, Parkins still holding him at the outside. It means he's going to have the apex for the right-hander. Ward is going to have to slot in behind, but Parkins hasn't cut his nose off, to be fair. He's given him the room, and they're going to go side by side. There's going to be a side draft effect for one of these cars going in towards the left at the end of the straight. PJ Clayson's, by the way, has overtaken Paul Rieger for the race lead. We missed that as we were focusing on this one, mainly because this fight is essentially for championship positions as well, and championship points for the top end of the order as well. But Paul Rieger has lost the race lead to PJ Clayson's, the Team 11 teammate of Lewis Ward, who we're currently looking at right now. So, yeah, again, though, the proof is in the pudding. What lap times are they putting in? If you're looking at Gavin Halls, it's a 1:35.3. If you're looking at these two, it's a 1:36.2. They're losing a second a lap just by fighting each other here, which is quite incredible as well. So expect to see Gavin Halls make up a lot of moves and a lot of time just by pitting early. I think although Lewis Ward's tactic of going for as long as possible on the tyres and the fuel before having to take his mandatory pit stop has worked before, I don't think he banked on Ryan Parkins being this much of a pain.
Yeah, I think Lewis Ward is having a little bit of trouble with his car in this race. He's just going off track a little bit too much, and he's not able to get that run on Ryan Parkins. I think Ryan Parkins is just trying to get out of the undercut range, but I don't think it's going to be possible with the draft on this circuit. And yep, it's still not pitting. This is going to be extremely close.
Bart Daleman has just blown my mind in the YouTube chat. Now, Bart, if nobody knows, is actually the person for Simracersworld who organises the league, well, the league that you're watching currently now. And he's just blown my mind, to be honest, because he's come in and he's told me that the pit stop is not actually mandatory. Which me and Pete MacKay were very much under the impression of. Lewis, I'll carry on my story in a minute. Lewis Ward goes up the inside of Ryan Parkins. Parkins is finally getting nudged out of it, and I tell you what, that was a little bit more of an aggressive move by Lewis Ward, wasn't it? I wouldn't say it was over the top or anything like that at all. He's just showing us that maybe I want this position. Parkins is responding, I want to keep this position, Ward. If you're going to start doing a little bit more like that, we can race a bit harder if you want to. Fantastic respect between the both of them, though, at the moment. As Parkins now, again, he's trying to carry the momentum. He's trying to carry the momentum, but Lewis Ward gets his power down earlier and finally cuts off the nose of Parkins, but he's opened the door again. Parkins up the inside. They're still going to go side by side. What an absolutely mad race that we're currently watching now. 40-minute featuring, and I'm glad because we've just ticked over 30 minutes. Imagine if this was the last lap. We want more. And Parkins lunging, huge lunge up the inside, late on the brakes on Lewis Ward, and they're going to be side by side over the start-finish line again, but Ward has now got his nose ahead. This isn't going anywhere. I don't think this fight. Why would you pit? You're having too much fun. I certainly hope they don't pit, that's for sure. I know it's probably the right thing to do, but I really hope they're not. Very quickly, Bart Daleman has actually told me that it's not a mandatory pit stop. Their fuel tank just doesn't hold enough fuel to do the entire lap unless you really, really fuel save. Which round Interlagos, potential, because obviously you can slipstream for a long time. But equally, it's if these guys are going this hard at each other, I think they're going to need to come in for fuel.
Ryan Parkins is definitely backed off a little bit there, and I think he's going to try and get Lewis Ward on the draft, which is what you should do. Or he's going to save fuel and hope Lewis Ward has the pit. But I'm going to guess that Lewis Ward is really, really going to have to pit for how he's been pushing that car to the absolute limit for this whole race. And this is going to be an incredible last 10 minutes, or even 8 minutes now. That was 2.5 minutes already gone. Wow, this is quick.
Gavin Hall still leading the way for the drivers who have come into the pit lane. In fact, he's actually overtaken one driver who hasn't yet come into the pit lane, in Wayne Palmer for Sim Stickers. But that's crucial to keep an eye on. He's now in 8th place. Keep an eye on Gavin Hall's name on the left-hand side of the screen. In fact, I think we can bring up the amount of pit stops that people have done on the left there. So you can see clearly on the timing tower the drivers that still need to take a pit stop, which is essentially the top 7 plus Mr. Palmer in 9th place. So that's essentially what you're going to be keeping an eye out on. Now, if you want to have a look at the interval, or the gap, shall I say, between all the drivers, keep an eye for the drivers around the 27-second mark as Ryan Parkin comes in. Now, I'm going to take all that away and just use the fact that, use our eyes to play this experiment out. I'm going to have a look at Gavin Halls, who's coming out at the penultimate corner now. Now, can Gavin overtake Parkins? I think it's going to be a fairly done and dusted procedure. It's just where Parkins will bleed back into the pack is really the crucial thing. Parkins is on his way out now. This is where we need dual screens. I need to set up my other PC and get another iRacing account, because this is fantastic racing to see. Parkins is coming out in 6th position. By the looks of it, Halls, I think, will have gotten ahead of him. Oh, it's going to be tight. It's going to be very tight here, Cameron. I think Parkins is going to just about hold on.
He is, but Parkins is on colder tyres, so there is room for error, and he's going to have to go a little bit easier. His brakes will be a little bit colder, and Gavin Halls is already in a rhythm. It looks like Gavin Halls is going to come out around about P5 after the end of all the pit stops. So, yeah, this is going to be incredibly close from these two. And I really, really do think that this is going to be right to the end. I really wonder what's going to happen with Gavin Halls. I really do think Gavin Halls is going to catch up to Ryan Parkins before the end of this race. He just needs to be in with like 1.2 seconds of Gavin Halls to get his slipstream. But let's just bear in mind that the car in front of him, Sam Bentham, has not stopped. So when Sam Bentham comes in with a big slide, when Sam Bentham comes in, he's going to run out of slipstream. So Gavin Halls needs to be right on his rear bumper, which he isn't at the moment. He's about 1.6 seconds off the rear bumper of Ryan Parkins, unfortunately. So, yeah, I still not pitting. So, yeah, if Sam Bentham had pitted that lap, that would have been it for Gavin Halls, but he hasn't. And if Gavin Halls can get a little bit more of a draft, I think he's going to be able to catch Ryan Parkins.
I have to say as well, obviously that long stint maybe worked for Parkins and Lewis Ward. I didn't think it did. We made this mistake at Spa. I think the timing for the pit lane timer is just screws us over a little bit. But PJ Clayson's, who obviously was ahead of Ward and obviously Riga, Parkins and everybody else like that, considering he was ahead when Parkins pit in, as long as Clayson's doesn't have to stay in the pit for any sort of longer length of time, say 34 seconds like a few of the other drivers, and he doesn't accidentally change tyres or this, that and the other, I think Clayson's could be on for a decent win here, and I think he's deserved it, because in race 1 he was incredibly quick, wasn't he, Cameron? We haven't given enough respect to the name in this race, in my opinion, but he's been incredibly quick. He's gotten past Paul Riga, and we expected Gavin Halls to actually be sort of taking that win, potentially. But Halls obviously has not picked Parkins. There's no reason why Clayson should be picked by any of them. And I think he's driven fantastically well in race 1. He's clearly got good pace. And he's driven brilliantly in race 2.
Yeah, he had incredible pace in race 1. And he hasn't stopped yet. But I think when he does stop, he's going to be out in front. Or at least near enough the front. He's got a 3-second lead on Paul Riga. And a 7-second lead on Lewis Ward. So you can't ask for better than that.
What I brought up on the left-hand side here is the reason why we're sort of trying to make our claims, and when I say 34 seconds compared to 26, this is the amount of time that the drivers spent in the pit lane, and I think the way it registers it on SDK is from the moment they have to hit the pit limiter, essentially the pit lane limiter, to the end of the pit lane limiter, and I think they spend a total of 26 seconds or 27 or 34 in the case of Matteo Sufi in the sort of pit lane limiting section, so where the speed limiter is basically, which is why we always bang on about, oh, you've got to have, say, a 26-second gap. And I can tell you right now that PJ Clayson's to Ryan Parkins is 25 seconds. But this is the thing. So that sounds incredibly close. But the thing is, Parkins was a good 5 seconds away from Clayson's when Parkins actually made that original pit stop. So I'm really not sure how it's going to go. But my theory now is the fact that Clayson's going to come out in a good position. Sam Bentham is under pressure here. No, he's not under pressure anymore because he's already been overtaken by Gavin Halls. Gavin Halls has managed to get past Sam Bentham. It's only just happened, to be fair. It's going towards the third corner by the looks of it. And a huge leap up the inside there by Gavin Halls, wasn't it? Lucky Wes Tech was actually looking. Oh, he's gone wide, but he's kept the position.
Oh, he went wide. Yeah, he just sent it into that corner, went wide, but that's the way Gavin Halls makes positions, obviously, throughout this race. And yeah, it is incredible. As we see Lewis Ward into the pits with the leader of PJ and Paul Rieger. We're going to have to watch PJ here coming out of the pit lane. He's absolutely on the limit there, coming out of the pit lane. Is he going to get out in front of everybody? I think, yeah, easily. Easy gains there from the two Racing Line design cars. Let's go back to Paul Rieger.
Oh, this is a bit closer. Matthew Crisp hasn't taken his pit stop, but here's Ryan Parkins in fourth place. So Crisp, in the middle of this three-way battle, hasn't taken the pit lane. So you can assume that Parkins is in provisional third place, Ward into provisional fourth, and so on and so on. Clayson's race lead by 5.5 seconds, nearly 6 seconds actually. So Rieger run really well as well, but he's going to be under huge amount of pressure by the Porsche Sport 912 car of Ryan Parkins as Matthew Crisp lunges up the inside. Remember, Matthew Crisp is pretty much not in this race for track position because he needs to make a pit stop. Or does he? It's not mandatory. I still have it in my head that it's mandatory, but it's not. Has Matthew Crisp saved enough fuel to get to the end? It's a high-risk, high-reward strategy as Rieger jumps out of the way of both of them. I can't wait to see how this one ends. Crisp taking a huge leap of faith here.
Yeah, it is. He is definitely sending it. Ryan Parkins in P3. Matthew Crisp in P2. Matthew Crisp hasn't pitted, but we don't know if he is going to pit. And unless he pits this time, Matthew Crisp is not going to have to pit. So this is going to decide it. Is Matthew Crisp going to have to pit in this race? No, he isn't. This is incredible by Matthew Crisp.
Yeah, Wayne Palmer and Sam Bentham also haven't pitted either, so keep an eye on whether they jump into the pits or not. But Crisp is looking like he's saved enough fuel. It's going to be an absolute disaster if he hasn't. He's been overtaken by Ryan Parkins. We'll let him have that. Ryan Parkins has been very quick. And Crisp probably is thinking, I can't really go full throttle anymore. Because remember, in iRacing, it's not about whether you shift up early or whether you, basically if you're trying to save revs or anything. He's looking up the inside again. It's all based on, fuel saving is based on where your throttle position is. So if you're on full throttle, you're drinking more fuel. If you're on 80% throttle, you're drinking less fuel, sort of thing. It doesn't matter whether you're in high race. Yeah, it is. It's really odd. I learned it in my second ever commentary gig. It blew my mind. But yeah, apparently it's based on throttle position, not the amount of revs that you put out in the car, which is horrendously wrong in my opinion if you're going for a realistic sim, because it's not realistic in the slightest, but it is the way the game works. So I think that's why if you're in the slipstream and you can hold it on 85% throttle but keep with the drivers in front of you and use slipstream to your advantage, you can save fuel. But you have to know the intricacies of iRacing to do that. And I think Matthew Crisp has learnt those intricacies. PJ Clayson's doesn't need intricacies though, because he has led the way for about 2/3 of this race. And he's been an absolute stonewall driver of the day for me. PJ Clayson's a fantastic recovery driver after a spin that wasn't his fault in race one. He's gotten into the race lead about halfway through this race, and he's absolutely been dominant ever since. PJ Clayson takes the race victory for Team 11. Matthew Crisp is going to come across the line in third as one driver came into the pits. I thought it was Matthew Crisp. Parkins in second, Crisp in third with no pit stop whatsoever. Paul Rieger in fourth place. A great drive by him as well, it has to be said. We don't give enough respect to him today. He led for the half of the race, was second for the other quarter, basically. Lewis Ward, he won race one. He's come fifth in this one, and he'll be pretty pleased with that one, I'm sure, as well. Gavin Halls has recovered, I think it's safe to say, after an earlier spin with Lewis Ward as well. He came in 6th, and to be fair, that's probably how they would have ended up. Well, you couldn't say that. They probably would have ended up next to each other at the end. It's just who would have won if they hadn't made those contacts earlier on. It would have been fantastic to see. Either way, they finished 5th and 6th.
Yes, I mean, I've got to say, Matthew Crisp has got to be my driver of the day. That was an incredible drive from him, and you just can't fault it. You just can't fault that drive from Matthew Crisp. He saved time, he saved fuel, and he gained time when he needed it. And I want to know how big his fuel tank was. I really want to have a chat with him in the interviews. But yeah, that was incredible by Matthew Crisp, like properly incredible.
You feel like he almost had a mouthful of extra fuel, didn't he? And he just spat it back out right at the end when he needed that extra burst over the line. Madness how he fuel saved that one. Craig Schill, in comparison, though, in the WesTech Autosport, not maybe having the best evening for it at the moment. He's in 20th place, and he is not the last driver to... In fact, he is the last driver to finish, actually. Jerome Kaiser has finished because I think he was a lap down in 21st place. So Craig Schill will be our last man to finish. Just wanted to give us a little bit more drama on the end before we go into the results. And crikey Moses, Cameron, that was quite incredible, wasn't it? You've only been here for 1 week. Obviously, Pete MacKay will probably be back next week, but it's been a hell of a show to come in for.
Yeah, it was incredible. I really enjoyed it, and I really hope he is back next week because I really enjoyed that.
Well, good stuff. You'd be more than welcome back if Pete doesn't make it back, but we will be bringing you now the feature race results. PJ Clayson's confirmed race victor by 6.5 seconds. Ryan Parkins was the driver who came in 2nd place. Matthew Crisp somehow managed to hold on to 3rd place with 0 fuel in the car, I can assume.
Sorry, can I just interrupt for a second?
Go for it.
Matthew Crisp has come in for an interview, so you guys need to stick around because we're talking to him first.
Yeah, there we go then. Paul Rieger in 4th, Lewis Ward in 5th, Gavin Halls, it was in 6th place in the end, just behind Lewis Ward. Sam Bentham in 7th place, Matthew Sufi in 8th, Adam McNally in 9th, 10th was Mark Woodhouse, and Miguel Freitas was in 11th place, Lee Deemer in 12th, Michael Blake 13th, Jason Rover in 14th, Jaco van der Plaats was in 15th, Renzo Uhlenbroek was in 16th in the end, but he did hold his own for a long time in that race, so fair play to Renzo. Niels de Cooper was in 17th, and Wayne Palmer, I don't think... no, he did end up with a pit stop in the end. Only Sam Bentham was the other driver who didn't actually manage to pit, so that's fair play to him as well. Paul Godin was in 19th place. Craig Schill ended up in 20th. Jerome Kaiser was a lap down, and so was Carl Sharkey with 8 laps down, and Jens Goosens 23 laps down, and Mark Phillips unfortunately didn't make the race start yet again. And now we do have, Cameron, you have a driver to interview. You mentioned him just before, but go ahead when you can kick off the interviews for this evening.
Matthew Crisp, can you hear us?
Hello, yes.
Okay, right. Please explain how on God's earth you were that quick and didn't pit.
Shake and bake.
How did you do it? Everybody else pitted for fuel and you didn't need to. What was the strategy?
Well, race 1, I put in way too much fuel. I started on full tank and then had about 12 litres left at the end. So this track is one of those tracks where it's not too heavy on the fuel, so I knew it was possible. And I thought, well, Lewis and Gavin are the main ones are fighting for the championship, and race 1 they had the pace over me. So I thought I had to do something. Got to do something different to try and get on top of them, and yeah, it worked out.
It definitely did. That was an incredible drive by you. I am in disbelief. You gained 15 positions during that race, and you were on. How much fuel were you on at the end?
I still had 1.5 litres. So
how? Okay, right. So you gained 15 positions in that race, which is just outstanding work. You started P18. What were you thinking mid-race? Were you trying to save fuel? Were you trying to push? What was the plan?
Yeah, I had one of my teammates, Kevin, just giving me the life gaps to guys I was around, and then there was a point in the race where I was like, no, I've just got to push now. If I don't make it, I don't make it. And it was, as it turned out, the perfect time to start pushing.
Yeah. So you were guessing, is that what you're saying?
Basically, yeah. You trust your fuel calculator to a point, and then it just becomes a point where you just sort of got to ignore it and just...
Just before we let you go, after that incredible performance, is there anyone you want to thank for this? Is there anyone you want to just mention on stream?
Yeah, thanks to Kevin, he was giving he was giving me all the live updates during the race caps, the people who I was racing, and Jacko, although he was racing, he was still trying to help as much as he could as well. And just everyone at Alcontech NHR and sponsors SimLab and Nyman Racing.
Thank you, man. That was an incredible drive by you. And hopefully next week you can get just that little bit step up onto P2 and maybe even P1.
Cheers, guys.
Have a good evening, mate.
Yeah, and you.
That was Matthew Crisp. What an incredible drive by him. I am still in disbelief of how he did that. And I don't think I'm the only one. I think the next driver is going to be Ryan Parkins coming into the commentary booth. Jacko, you can have this one.
Yeah, Ryan. I mean, obviously we've just been speaking about Matthew Crisp's strategy. It was slightly different to your strategy, wasn't it? Because it looked like your strategy for the majority of that race was to fight as hard as you can with Lewis Ward. But it looked good fun, though.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was good fun, and I knew I was losing time, but he had a really big battle with Gavin earlier, and I just wanted a good battle. Knew I was losing time from it because I saw that Crisp had gone in really early for his fuel. I knew I was losing time, but I wanted a bit of fun. I was laughing through it. It was really good fun. But at one point, on the opening lap of race 2, I was actually last. So I'm really happy to come away to second for that. But obviously, it was a bit of carnage. But yeah, it was great fun. I really liked it. I got him inside, outside. Yeah, and I kind of like lost it on traction out of the mid sector. Yeah, I thought, yeah, he can have it. And I'll pit and see what happens.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you under the impression that Matthew Crisp pitted then early on? Did you say?
Yeah, I thought he pitted quite early.
He didn't pit at all.
He didn't pit at all.
No, he didn't pit at all. He still had 1.5 litres left when he finished the race, apparently. We just spoke to him. That's the reason. Well, one, he came third, so you tend to speak to the third place man first anyway. But he was one of 2 drivers. Sam Bentham as well, who's also in the interview waiting room, didn't pit either. 2 drivers managed to get it all the way through the race without pitting then.
Oh.
Yeah, we were
I
quite
tried that in
surprised
practice. I tried that in practice, and I was a bit like, yeah, you got to really save hard. Well, they did a great job then. Really good job. Well done to them.
Well, we said as well while you were sort of mid-race with Lewis Ward and everything like that, because obviously Lewis Ward has had his battle with Gavin Halls earlier on. That unfortunately ended in a bit of a disaster. And at the time, we were sort of thinking, Ryan Parkins, he could cut through the order here and he could score some good championship points. We've been speaking a lot about you and your championship points at the moment because obviously Pete MacKay obviously speaks very highly of you, and I know this is the first championship that I've been watching you. Clearly very impressed. But the championship points haven't really come your way compared to the other 3, have they yet? Were you going into this round a little bit more aggressive than you had been previously? Because Pete always talks about how you sort of are a bit more calm and collected, almost comparing you to a Colin Turkington, more than an Ash Sutton if you watch BTCC. Did that slightly change this round, knowing you had to pick up the points?
No, not at all. I've been going in at the same thing every time, trying to get as many points. I've just lost out at Hockenheim, and I had a bit of trouble at the last round, I think. I think I've been doing okay. This is my first season, or my first league back since end of March, when I left for work to get married and everything. So it's my first thing back, so I'm pretty happy where I'm at, to be honest.
You're telling me sim racing didn't come before marriage? How boring.
Yeah, tell me about it. But she supports me doing it, and I'm trying to get a Porsche GT3 steering wheel as a wedding gift. So she agreed to that.
That's a pretty good plug, isn't it? Then it's getting married. I want a wedding gift. I don't want a juicer. I don't want new sheets for the bed or anything like that. I want a Porsche 911 GT3 Cup wheel. I'll have that, please. That'll be fantastic on the list.
From Midas Simulation as well.
Oh, specifically Midas Simulation. I love that that's on the list. Well, fair play, Ryan. It was brilliant to see you obviously fighting right at the front. And to be honest, you gave us one of the best shows that we had out there, haven't you, as well? I'm very glad to hear that you've got a big smile on your face with that fight with Lewis Ward as well. Hopefully we see plenty more of that going forward, because obviously we're going into the second half of the season now. Is there anybody you'd like to give a quick shout out to before we let you go and enjoy the evening?
Gavin Halls. He's done the setups every race for this so far. He's put the effort in. He's put the hours in, and the laps, like a lot of laps. And yeah, it's disappointing. Obviously, he's not up there with me, not up there together, and the team. But obviously, the team's done a great job. Porsche Sport, everyone sponsors, all of that. And my wife, probably, she's not listening. She doesn't watch this anymore. She's given up now. She's married to me. But yeah, cheers, guys, and you lot. Thanks. Cheers, boys.
Just watch the first lap, mate. They all three we just saw on stream. All three Porsche Sport cars were side by side. It was pretty cool.
Yeah,
Freebie promo.
Yeah, definitely a photo opportunity there, I'd say. Thank you very much, Ryan, for coming in for the interview.
Cheers, boys. Thank you.
And that was Ryan Parkins, obviously second on the road. Now, one driver we're probably worth having a chat to as well, Cameron, considering he is in the interview waiting room and indeed now in the broadcast booth, is Sam Bentham. The reason being mainly, actually, Sam, is because we heard about Matthew Crisp and how he managed to go without a pit stop for that entire second race, but you managed it as well, didn't you? And was it a bit touch and go for you?
My JRT couldn't decide whether there were 3 or 4 laps to go, and if there had been 4, I would not have made it, or even close. So Ryan came out the pits right in front of me, and I was like, well, may as well fight him. I'm not going to make it if there's more than 3 laps to go. So thankfully, I suspected a bit because of the way the algorithm works on the JRT screen that once everyone pitted in front of me, it would sort itself out because it was touch and go on it, and thankfully it did.
So, sorry, just to interrupt. Matthew Crisp attempted to sort of cover up the fact that it was basically guesswork. You're openly admitting it was complete guesswork then?
So, not guesswork so much as I was kind of forced into it. So I kind of had it up my sleeve. I was kind of like, okay, I knew from practice this is possible. You can do this. I didn't know whether it was the right strategy. I really struggled to get clean runs in, to be honest, and not make mistakes. In practice this week, because the elevation change makes this car particularly difficult with a lack of ABS. So. I really struggled. I didn't know, and I was kind of like, well, I'll just do the first couple of laps and see where I am. And if I've ended up, fighting my way through the field, then I guess I'm racing. After I got spun out lap 1,
which we're just watching, by the way.
Not going to talk about that in too much depth, but suffice to say, there's a repeat offender who keeps doing that, and I'll let the protest form say everything else. So once that happened, I was like, well, now I've got no choice. I have to go for this fuel safe strat. And I didn't really know how much I needed to save or how many laps to expect because it really was touch and go. So I just tried to save as much as I could and then see what happens. And thankfully I made it over the line. I think I had 0.3 or something in the tank. So.
Yeah, well, to be fair, as I said, we were just watching that race 1 incident and it did look like almost that iRacing just stuck your cars together as well. I'm sure you'll put in the protest, but that's just one commentator's opinion.
I'll have a look afterwards, of course, as well. So.
Yeah. So obviously, race 1 went your way as well in a lot of ways, isn't it? I mean, 5th place, and you're sort of there's that extra 0.2 of a second that the championship contenders seem to have on you, isn't there? I suppose the question is, what's the plan to try and maybe grasp that back? Are you putting a little bit more seat time? Is there a bit more setup that you can maybe play around with? I suppose what's the plan to try and get that 0.2 to try and get that race victory or that pole position?
Yeah, I think that's right. I described it to a friend of mine who likes tennis topically as I'm occupying kind of the Andy Murray slot. So I'm significantly, worse than Djokovic, Federer, and Nadal, or in this case, Crisp, Ward, Halls, and Parkins, and significantly ahead of everybody else, it seems. So it's right. You're right. It's 2 or 3 tenths, maybe a little bit more. It's not much, but it adds up over the course of the race. As for plan, I'll be honest, I'm still pretty inexperienced with the car. This is, I've done like 2 officials before I entered the series, so overall I'm quite pleased with how it's going. But to close the gap, I think it's just some more experimentation in the setup booth, some more sitting in a dark room thinking about how I can preserve the rear tires a bit better, and then just put in the hours. There's no substitute for hard work. So.
Well, I have to say as well, I will give you this. You are very consistent with the point scoring. Bart Dalemans has been typing away furiously on his computer to update the standings that I can now sort of look at. And if you're looking at the likes of, say, Gavin Halls, okay, who's obviously in 3rd place, he's got 30 points in race 1 at Hockenheim, scored 2 points in race 2. Then he got 30, 13, 25, 15. Whereas you're consistently 18, 21, 14, 11, 16, 14. There is a vast consistency compared to some of the drivers ahead of you. So you never know. Come the end of the championship, you may well get towards the podium positions with drop rounds.
Yeah, maybe. It's something I'm aware of, to be honest. Like, I know, and I knew going in that the guys ahead are going to have some raw speed, but this is an incredibly high variance car. Just because of the way it handles it, in my opinion, it's the hardest car to drive in iRacing. Others might disagree with that, but it's certainly up there. It's very high variance. Anyone can snag a brake or make a mistake, and the car just wants to loop round. And as well as that, the reverse grid in race 2 also adds to the variance. This is going to be a very high variance championship. So my kind of plan is, if I'm going to win this championship, which is unlikely, extremely unlikely, but if I'm going to win, my best shot is to stay out of trouble, not take too many risks, and just come between 3rd and 7th every race and see where that is, and hope the guys ahead of me have bad races or trip over people coming through the field or this kind of stuff. So yeah, something I'm conscious of and actively aim for is to kind of be consistently around that point. I think that's my best shot. So
well, it's not a bad shout, that's for sure. Before we let you go, Sam, is there anybody you'd like to give a quick shout out to before we wrap it up?
Yeah, as always, whenever I do this, my partner Emily, who is fantastic with me in this and doesn't complain a word about the amount of time I spend in the simulator, which is, to say the least, very significant. So thanks very much. What was that? Sorry.
Might have your partner.
But no. So many thanks to her, and yeah, and everyone who's helped me along the way. I've anyone cares to look at my iRacing profile, I've come a long way in the last 12, 18 months, and I'm very grateful to everyone that's helped me along the way. So here's to the next 18 months and hopefully closing that 3 or 4 tenths gap to the top. But we'll see.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Sam, and good luck. Maybe we'll be speaking to you next week.
Yes, thanks very much, guys. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too, mate.
And that was Sam Bentham coming in for a quick chat, consistently around 5th place, as he said, between 3rd and 7th is his aim, and he's doing a very good job at that. Cameron, a quick word before we close out, maybe on your thoughts of the championship, and obviously what you thought about, basically what you thought about it this evening.
Yeah, it was incredible racing this evening. You can't fault the racing in this championship, apparently. If I'm not commentating on the next one, I will definitely be watching because I am so interested to see who wins the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. And just before we go, as I said, mentioned in the Sam Bentham interview, the points have been changed. So I'll just rattle off the top 5. Lewis Ward, 119 points. Matthew Crisp, 118 points. 1 point in it. Gavin Halls, 113 points. So 6 points off Lewis Ward to Gavin Halls, which is quite a madness. And then Ryan Parkins has closed the gap, I would say. He's got 107 points. So there's about a 12-point difference between the top 4. Sam Bentham, he's got 83 points. He's thoroughly into 5th place. He's not really got any problems with Miguel Freitas in 6th with 70 points. But that is your top 5, well, top 6 technically, actually. You're going to have to keep it posted to find out what on earth happens next time out for the Simracersworld European Porsche Cup. My name has been Jack Oliphant. I've been joined by Cameron Hawes. It is Cameron Hawes, isn't it? Or Cameron Hayes?
It is. It's Cameron Hawes.
There we go. Cameron, I'm sorry. I've always wondered how to pronounce your second name. Cameron Hawes. This has been the Simracersworld European Porsche Cup. Round 5 and 6 at Interlagos. Join us next week for more fantastic action.